debate, members only, live. I'm your host, obviously, Nathan Oakley, and if you're watching after the fact and you're new to the channel, then be sure to subscribe, hit the members join button if you want to take part in these members only live streams. But with that, I have actually got a full Discord and G+ panels waiting in the wings to discuss things, as always, on a Flat Earth Debate live stream. Now, for whatever reason, I may or may not get into this on the show. I'm not exactly in the mood for a full public live stream today, so it will only be members that will get this live. So that may change as we progress with this live stream, but with that, I'm going to hand across to whoever is in Discord and G+, so you can enjoy their dulcet tones.
Right? It was like automated. He would turn his head left and right, and his eyes would light up and light off. And I was like, whoa, that looks like a movie. Since he said Hollywood, right? Yeah. No comment.
Yeah, the new thing they're selling right now is these like 10 feet, they're even bigger, like 10, 13 feet skeleton people. Like they're bigger than the houses. I'm like, holy crap.
Wow. They're Dark Souls, brother. Dark Souls. So I got one of these years. Yeah, one of these years I want to dress up as the Dark Souls protagonist with the big sword and just go and smash everyone's skeleton and do dodge rolls off their lawn. If you know, you know.
If I was a kid, I would be M80ing the crap out of those.
See, but there you go. So you can talk about that as well, like the naivety in people. What are you actually celebrating? Like, what is it you're doing? Why is it you're doing what you're doing there? Like, why do you believe that you need to go out on one night and dress up as like dead people, basically ghosts or anything to do with evil? Do you not think that's a frequency level straight there? Like, so you just want to generate a fear, or are you trying to generate that actually it's really fun to be feared and have the fear factor?
That's the thing. They don't really think about it. Right? They're just seeing everybody doing it, and it's accepted, and they just kind of go with it. And it's advertised as funny and pleasant. Like it's advertised in cartoons, so people just think like it's like a kid's thing. But the reality of it is like the opposite. Like everything else in the world, the reality of everything is the opposite than what is being presented. The reality of it is they're worshiping death. They're worshiping witchcraft. But it's not presented like that, so they don't actively think like that, right? So if you don't think like that, it's not like they're consciously going, yeah, let's celebrate death, or they're not consciously going, yeah, let's celebrate witchcraft, or you know what I mean? Most people are just doing out of ignorance. So in a sense, you could say they're veiled. Like a lot of things people do, they do out of ignorance. Generally, I keep my mouth shut about stuff like that. I see people doing stuff like that, I just smile, wave, act politely, talk about whatever. People are where they are, right? If I have to go around correcting everybody, I'm going to be the most super annoying guy ever. So it's better to keep your mouth shut and just try to flow in the conversation, right?
Oh no, totally. I think people can do what they're going to do. It's just it's having those conversations where outside of those things, isn't it? Well, why'd you do it? What's that about? You think about just opening people up just to think about, well, what is that? And it is demon worship. And I could always find it funny. What's the next day? Like tomorrow? What's tomorrow? All Saints Day. I love that because it's like, oh right, so we've got an evil night because all the saints, right? The next day.
Saints Day? What? I never heard of that.
It's over here. It's All Saints Day. Have a look up on it. It's 1st of November.
Huh.
Oh. Well, as weird as it is, it actually parallels the Christian message, which is towards the end of the year, they celebrate death, which is the end, right? And winter's coming. But in parallel with death, you have Thanksgiving, which is people thanking what God has given them, right? And so, in the midst of all that death and the winter coming, which represents a season where everything, quote unquote, dies for a while, or shrivels up, leaves fall. It looks like everything's dying. But in the midst of that, then you have Christmas coming, which is, the Messiah is born, the promised child, which is the hope of mankind. And through the season of winter, then you get to spring, where then you celebrate Easter, which is the resurrection, which is the ultimate rebirth, right? So you have the physical rebirth in the world, and then you have the spiritual rebirth in the ascension of Christ. So it actually does. You could use it as a message to a degree, because the world's going to world, and people are going to die, people are going to sin, and the message really isn't don't be out there sinning, because a lot of religions have that message, right? So from the Christian perspective, the message is really all about, like, okay, yes, this is the condition of the world, but here's God's plan of hope, right? So that's how I look at it.
That's a good point. I mean, I also just want to think: is it Hinduism as well? Don't they have Diwali? Is it, or the Festival of Lights? That's around this. That's around this time as well, isn't it? If I remember right. But like, it's still like celebrating the light, right? And then what is it? What was it? It's where the earth meets the spirit realm or something. Oh, I can't think. Or like it's when the closest of your nearest touching the veil or whatever. In spiritualism, is it? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, it's just weird that it's all at the end of October, if you know what I mean, or like heading towards the end of October.
Well, there's a verse that says, "I would have you wise concerning good, and simple concerning evil." I think sometimes we're too focused on what's evil and what's bad in the world, and we just go around pointing that stuff out and talking that stuff out, when the reality of it is better to just be focusing on what's good, and that sorts out the evil stuff, so to say, right? If you're wise concerning good and simple concerning evil, well, just through doing good and being wise doing good, you don't do evil, right? Now, of course, there's still some stuff, you should know about evil, but you shouldn't be that wise about it, right? You should just be more wise about good, right? So I think sometimes we got it backwards in that area. We just want to focus on what's bad, and this is bad, that is bad, and then just constantly talk about what is bad. And then what is good, and to talk about what is good and to do good kind of escapes us more because we're more wise about what is bad. So we should just flip it around. Just focus on what is good. And think on what is good. And as a result,
That's a good point.
yeah. Because you see, when you're constantly thinking about the evil and stuff like that, you develop more sin consciousness. You're more conscious of sin, and then as a result, you can find a way to condemn yourself in almost every single area. And God doesn't want us to feel condemned. That, and if you're constantly thinking about what is evil and stuff like that, you're constantly being talking about that, and that's who wants to hear somebody constantly talk about evil stuff, right? It's a nice, beautiful day. The weather is nice. The wind is breezy, and somebody talks, about whining and complaining, and it's like, geez, guy, can't you just enjoy the weather? Just enjoy this walk, have a pleasant conversation.
I know, but there'll always be vampires out there who will just suck you, and just drain you of all your energy.
Yeah, Matthias used that term first. He called them energy vampires.
Yeah, they are. They suck you dry.
Okay. Yeah, you don't want to dwell on stuff like that.
I mean, have you ever been around people where, like, and all of a sudden you actually feel like you're in a whirlwind, and you've only sat with them for 5 minutes, and you're like, I even feel like I'm in a whirlwind. What is going on?
There you go. Yep, there's some people that you hang around. It's pleasant to be around. You know, your frown turns upside down if you had one. And then there's other people where if you did have a smile, all of a sudden you turn it into a frown, right? By being around them. Anyways,
So, what's new in the heliocentric, you know, crappy religion? Anything new? Anything? Any other meteorites going to hit us in the next couple of days? Or
maybe there should be a saying, wise concerning FE and simple concerning heliocentrism.
You know, I was gonna say there's a new argument that they're kind of kicking around, and I heard the other like last week. Just forgot, I haven't brought it up yet. I forgot his name. He goes by Stingray on TikTok. Is it Brent or I forgot his name? He used to be around here a long time ago. He has a globe Earth, and then it's like kind of cut in half to show the core, and then he has it placed upon a flat Earth. And he says that the distance of from one side to the other of the globe doesn't match the distance if you're on the flat Earth, and then you have like from the north to the equators. And he was just, and a lot of people were like, oh, cool, thanks. So I was just saying, I'm surprised I haven't heard anyone argue it yet in Discord, like this, especially in other or in other servers. But he's kind of spreading that around, so it was really interesting. I don't know if you guys heard that before, or come across that.
no. So what's that? He's split like so. He's got a model of Earth, and he splits it in half to get to the core. Is that what you're saying? Like shows, and then puts it.
Yeah, like imagine like the ball cut in half, then it shows like the core, then the crust, and then the other crust, and or the layers of the inside of the Earth as described in school, in academia, and then but he puts that half, I guess you could call it quadrant at this point of the Earth, like a quarter of it that's cut in half, as well as another half, right? That's why I said a quarter of it, because he puts it on top of a flat Earth. It's like a little graphic, and then he shows how the distance from the Earth, it doesn't equal like the way flat Earth would be from equator to equator. I'm like,
What?
you see, yeah.
So hold on a second. So how did he scale 3858 down into whatever size he used? Did he go through the whole process of where he's done it?
Yeah, he does the math. Like he's all, if you take, if you have a 69 degree, or 1 degree per 69 miles, he says if you calculate that on a map, then it wouldn't equal what it equals on the globe. Like it wouldn't work on the, and he said it's like way further. Like the equator would be way further away because it's more. It would have to be less.
So the globe
But
he's using is the same that they use for how the Earth is measured flat, right?
right, yeah.
So straight away there is he's just reified it, right? There you go. Well,
Yeah.
of course, you've just put it into your religion and then said it ain't going to work in the one religion you took it from, which is the truth.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
It wouldn't equal the 4,000 mile radius. That's what you're saying. So I'm like, okay, so you debunked your own globe then. But then he was like, it makes sense on the globe. It has to be a globe. Yeah, but I'm just surprised a lot of people have it in these circles. Globers joining like over in the politics server. I haven't heard anybody repeat that yet, but I don't know.
Ask them how they got to the 69 miles.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot his name. He used to be in here a long time ago. I think it's like Brand or something like that. He goes by Stingray on TikTok.
But that guy, he's an absolute fraud. Ask him where did they get the 69.048 statute miles from? How did they get that
Right.
to turn it into 16 nautical miles? Ask him how they got that, and tell him to give you the exact number. It's 60.048. Sorry, 69.048. That guy's a total fraud. He was shown to be a fraud years ago.
Yeah.
He's a
He's now on
bullshitter.
TikTok.
He annoys
but
me.
see,
He annoys me immediately, that guy. Because he's a liar.
Yeah.
He's a straight out liar. Because he was shown where he was wrong years ago. And he was shown and he went, oh, right. And he couldn't deal with it. Then he went off and pretended nothing happened. Ask him where the 69.048 statute miles comes from. Ask him, where is the origins of that measurement? And he won't be able to tell you. It's flat plain. Ask him how they got it, using the celestial bodies, using which celestial body and how did they get it, and what did they do. Tell him to bring you through all the process. Bullshitter. Sorry, he just annoys me. The minute I hear that name, I get annoyed. He avoided me years ago when I used to be debating people all the time. He avoided me. He was coming out with all these stupid perspective nonsense that was false, and he wouldn't debate me at the time. Now he can take a run and leap off a cliff. But at the time, he would not debate me. He gets it, I'll get around to it. He was never going to debate me because he knew I was going to absolutely humiliate him publicly. Sorry, cutting in on your conversation. That annoys me when I hear that. Go on.
He likes to do the Pontchartrain bridge nonsense, and then he like creates a diagram. I'm like, dude, this guy is so. He has like I don't even want to get it. It's gonna frustrate me again. He pisses me off too. I'm in agreement with you, dude. He makes me mad too because he's just straight out lying.
Mirage is formed.
What?
Ask him where did the inferior mirage come from at the opposite side of the lake? How is that there? Ask him that. That requires a surface. So if we're after going over the curve halfway across the lake, then how come there's a surface at the opposite side?
Yeah.
He annoys me. He does. I'm going to go quiet now because just the thought of him annoys me because he's a bullshitter. He was trying to make a flat earth map years ago. And I started saying, okay, you want to make a flat earth map, but here's what you do this, and this. And other people told him similar stuff. And he went off and made whatever he wanted to make anyway, which was a big straw man, heap of rubbish. I'm talking years and years ago. It's like, so you're wanting to make a flat earth map. People told you, right, you can't do this, you must do this, and this. And he didn't do any of it. He just made whatever he wanted to make and just used it as some kind of a stupid straw man. The guy is a complete bullshitter. He's a fraud. The guy is an absolute fraud. And you could tell him, Brian's Logic told everyone that you were a fraud. Or Brian's Logic said, you're a total fraud. With cause. And if he wants to debate me, now it's going to cost him money. Whereas it was free before when he was avoiding it.
It's guys like him, though. Like, it's him and McToons and, the Craigs. Like, guys like that. They kind of fuel populate the Discord servers with like idiots that just parrot what they're saying. So earlier when someone said, so what's new, in the globe nonsense, I just brought that up. Like, well, something that I heard last week, he brought that up. He's trying to say that it doesn't add up mathematically.
Yeah, but see, there you go. There you go. I've had it on my channel for several years now. The details concerning that. And he was told, I'm sure, about that at some point. This is not new. This is stuff that's around since 2015. It's been answered. And people like him just decide to completely ignore the answers and just go with the same BS anyway. He's a complete and utter fraud. Tell everyone on TikTok he's a fraud. Tell him he ran away. Tell them all that he ran away from YouTube because he was getting his ass handed to him regular. Because that's what happened. Is he over here? When was the last time he was here? Years ago. Years ago.
Yeah, he doesn't come anymore.
Because he got his ass handed to him.
Yeah.
You know what they do?
When I came across
They're all
him
over on TikTok where there's fresh meat. Sorry, go on. I'm getting carried away with myself. What were you saying?
No, it's all good. No, when I first saw him on TikTok, though, it was like about 2 years ago, and I'm like, I know you. Your voice is really familiar. He's like, oh, I've been around. Like, you know the way he talks. I was like, you sound really familiar. But I got into a long hour and a half conversation with him on TikTok while he was live streaming, and people were like, oh, you know, he kept running into walls as I was explaining things, because I was telling him about like how, you know, the way everything's measured flat and stuff. And that's when he brought out this stupid diagram showing a boat going away. I'm like, yeah, but you're not changing the size of the boat though. Like, why would you give up that? Well, that's false, because optically that boat's gonna get smaller to the, like, it's gonna compress. So it was just like it was so disingenuous, bro. He was, but people like,
Was it going over a globe's
Globers
geometric
feed that.
edge that doesn't exist by any chance?
Well, that's good.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, these are the little things that that's that. Now he's aware of that argument for almost 5 years now, and yet he's still bringing out bullshit like that, trying to use that against somebody.
It's because he
Who are you
has
talking
new
about?
people to.
Stingray, remember Stingray, Nathan, the guy with the CAD, the Glober that used CAD all the time.
Yeah, he's really good with CAD, and he builds fake models.
Yeah.
I wasn't asking.
Thank
Roger Ledwell was asking. Thank you.
Yeah, tell everyone over on TikTok that guy ran away from YouTube. Oh, him and all the rest of them. Why are they all over there? But why are they
That's what I
over
was going to say.
What?
That's what I was going to say. It's because over there, he has a lot of new people that are getting into this discussion barely, like even currently, like this year. So he's just recycling all the old lies and he's putting them out there. And then that's why, like in politics, that's why you hear old arguments, because it's people like him that are like just continuously spewing them out, even though they were shut down even years ago and like debunked way back then. But he has new people listening and more people like to feed, you know, on those falsehoods. So he's like just serving them lies. But that's why. That's why I was saying, like, it'd be really cool.
Easy targets is what he has on TikTok. Easy targets, people that don't know anything. The same with the rest of them that are over there now, the likes of McToon or whoever else is over there. It's easy targets over there. Because on YouTube, we're established. People are already coming into it over on TikTok, completely new, seeing things like ice falls and all that other nonsense.
That's why I think it'd be really cool if every morning Nathan like streamed his show to TikTok, like as a live stream, even if you're not even like showing anything. You could just even post just what you post on YouTube, but simultaneously have it on TikTok as well. And people could go on there and they'll gift you and they'll send you gifts, and like I've made money on it too before, just talking to Stingray. People were gifting me because I was shutting them down and making them look like a fool. And then like people, like listeners or like viewers, they'll like start sending me gifts. But if you have a stream, people make like a lot of money on there because people could send gifts to you. I was just thinking like that'd be cool if Nathan did that, because then this whole conversation that you do every single morning, Nathan, can be on TikTok every single morning, and people will like tune into that because there's a lot of people like eagerly trying to find out, and they have a lot of questions. You'll see in the chat, but that would be cool if you could do that.
Okay, thank you for the suggestion.
Hey, so what happened to you?
What?
What happened to you?
Oh, nothing. I'm just miserable. Not show worthy to discuss it. Ideally, it won't cause silence, though. Okay. I just have an expensive problem that's difficult to solve, and in attempting to solve it twice, I've been ripped off. So I've still got the same problem, and in 2 attempts, it's cost me money, and it's very annoying. Now, because I'm poor, what is generally a minor inconvenience for some people is a huge deal for me. So things like this greatly upset me. Now, not typically to the extent that they are when I've got a toothache and a throbbing head. Then I can't focus and think straight to figure out a problem to the solution. So I'm just losing my rag over it. Hence, today there won't actually be a public live stream. We're already live and have been for some time to members. You know, there's probably half a dozen people, 10, watching. But for that reason, I just know I'm going to... Just your suggestion about doing something else almost got you shouted at. Now, I've already upset my eldest daughter by just losing my temper with her unreasonably and then having to apologise to her today. So I just know it's probably not a good idea to go out to the public, and as I can and have the facility to go out to members only who are a lot more sympathetic to me, if I do lose my temper with somebody, which is the most likely thing that's going to happen today, I can just feel it coming. Because you're being nice, you're trying to suggest something, but all I hear is, why don't you do something extra when you're overworked, run down, becoming ill as a result of it, and getting screwed by people who take advantage of the poor. So, in an attempt to save money in solving a problem, I've been taken advantage of by scammers twice. And it just enrages me that this small problem is becoming such a big problem so quickly because of lack of resources. It just frustrates me and upsets me greatly. There you go. That's hopefully, obviously, me not answering has left dead air. This is definitely not show worthy. So hopefully the conversation, which was great up until this point, will continue without me carrying on. Anyway.
I understand your position. I've had a similar position myself in recent times. Somewhat similar. Where I was given the impression something was going to cost a whole lot more than it actually is going to cost. And the problems were way bigger than they actually are, you know, to deal with mechanical stuff. So, you know.
Mine's a safety issue. So, okay, let's just get it done. So, it's a light on a car issue, right? So, I don't know, a couple of years ago, however long ago, one of the lights started playing up. And at the time, we weren't poor, so it's probably more than 2 years ago. Could be 10 for all I know. It's a 25-year-old car that we've kept going forever. Anyway, however long ago, one of the lights goes wrong. Audi tell us it's like 1,200 quid to replace that, because we won't sell you the part. We'll only sell you the entire setup as one piece for over £1,000, well over £1,000. So we look for a second-hand one for about 350 quid. And we see it, we check it. When it comes, it's full of broken glass and flies. And works, and we needed the light to get it through an MOT, so it gets fitted full of flies and broken glass for several £100s. So that's the first time I class being scammed. When you contact the guy, he's like, well, send it back. No, they know full well you're buying it because you need lights, right? It's dangerous not to have them. Once they're on, it works, so you sigh, you get on with it. Right, here we are, many years later, since it was fitted, it's constantly smashing bulbs. That's why it broken glass in it, because it's faulty and keeps shattering bulbs repeatedly. Very irritating. So it's got one old headlight, one new that keeps smashing bulbs that's clear. So we decide to solve this problem because both of them are to the point where we literally have no lights. And we've got 2 kids in the back driving back from the south coast with an ill father, and I've got to make that journey, and it's often going to be in the dark now. So we're like, sod it, we'll invest money that we haven't got in another pair, a complete matched pair. So we order them, they come, we check them over in the box, they look great. We take them to the garage, we pay 150 quid for them to be fitted, go to get the car. One of them isn't, they don't match, they're not a pair. So now I'm still stuck with one that's got constant problems with blowing bulbs and another one that's new and completely mismatched, a completely different colour. So they're still faulty, mismatched, and look absolutely awful. And I'm so far probably £700 or £800 into stupid lights. Right close to the point where you're like, okay, so when Audi, however many years ago, said, oh yeah, it'll be £1,200, I'm getting right close to that, and it's getting worse. They're more mismatched than they ever were. They still don't work. So you're like, what do I do to solve this? Throw more money at it on another second-hand set that someone will screw me over on? You just don't, I don't know what to do. And I need lights on the car. It just drives you absolutely mad. So when the garage texts me this morning, I'm like, you never normally text me. And it's because they've done the job and they wanted paying in cash. Well, okay, fair enough. It was reasonably cheap, £150 for a bumper off job. And then I found out why, because he's only done one of them because they don't match. Now, that's not his fault. I've bought them and given them to him to fit. So that's why he's admittedly cut me some slack and charged me very cheap labour, knowing full well I'm just going to pay it again, either to get them taken out so I can send them back, by which point it's more than the cost of the actual lights in the cost of putting them on and taking them off again. So you're like, this is so infuriating. Good money after bad. Anyway, that's the full details of my boring, mundane shit that most people would just solve by going, yeah, of course I'll pay £1,200 for one light. And then this would never be an issue. For me, it's like, no, I can't do that. £350. No, another £250. No, another £100. No, another £150. And here we are with, like, that's how much I've thrown at it, and it still is not solved. So, yeah, I'm just upset about that, hence me not wanting to go out to a live audience, because with that being literally the only thing on my mind, that and toothache, I'm going to end up either losing my temper with somebody, not focusing on the subject enough to, you know, to do something that I'm going to regret, basically, if I'm going out to a live audience. Now, if that happens and I'm going out to members, they're a lot more sympathetic. You know what I mean? Whereas the vultures that surround this subject, that's Flat Earth, they can't wait for me to be in a bad mood, upset, in pain, to take advantage of it and just you know, twist that tooth, metaphorically speaking. But I'm not, you know, it's just I don't want it. So I don't think I can cope with the stress of it, basically. And for the last couple of days, I've been running a show going, I don't want to run a show today because I don't physically feel up to it because I'm in a lot of pain. Now, fortunately, after 2 courses of antibiotics, I'm now in less pain. It's finally, after about 2 months or however long it's been, starting to subside. So that's one good thing. But like I say, my financial limitations have caused a minor issue to become something that's suddenly a massive financial strain. It's a freaking headlight. Anyway, that's it. I'm done. Please, can we change the subject back to Flat Earth? I was really, really appreciative of the fact that this, at least we're well into both the live and recorded shows. So this is like in the middle of it rather than at the beginning of it. So I'm at least appreciative of that. Anyway, you've heard all of it now. Hopefully there's no questions to follow this up with. I shouldn't need to feel like this to get it back on track. This is a segue for you, right? Why do I not want to run a live show today? Well, I just gave you the details, didn't I? Because we were surrounded by vultures who, in the name of defending their stupid batshit insane globe belief, will see me as a target if I'm under the weather or, you know, I shouldn't suddenly feel like I'm going to be potentially victimised simply because as a job, I talk about how Earth's measured. And that offends quite a lot of people greatly. So therefore, they're going to see an attack that's potential on an individual, a personal attack, and go in for it at any opportunity. So, you know, while the doors, you know, remain open, it shouldn't be that they'll flood in because they see the bartenders got us the sniffles, which is metaphorically what would happen if I went live to the public today, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, because it's not just Globers, it's also other people who used to or claimed to be on our side. First chance they get, they're going to do that too. You know, look, like that guy we were talking about earlier, Stingray, right? That guy, right, is fully aware of how all of these arguments are destroyed, yet he's willing to respawn and repunt these things to a fresh audience on a different platform. Like, that to me is infuriating, that somebody thinks they can just do that. That infuriated me the minute I heard it. When I hear his name, it infuriates me because I know what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with someone who's completely dishonest and is willing to tell someone who's possibly just a teenager or something, give them a heap of rubbish and fill their head with a heap of rubbish and try and manipulate the facts and come at them with arguments that were destroyed years ago over here on YouTube. Like, that's what we're dealing with. It's like, how can you get up in the morning and look in the mirror at yourself and do that? I don't understand how you can do that. It just shows that you have no humility and you're just a straight out low-life liar. That's it. That guy, him, and those that do the same thing as him are so unbelievably dishonest and so weak. I find that so weak. Like, when your argument is beaten, it's beaten. That's it. You don't come back and use the same argument with someone who doesn't know how to beat it.
But that's something I want to. Again, this ties back into something I've been talking about recently. I want to lower the stakes. I mean, have less sentimental and I can't think of the other word. Mental investment into the subject when it's broached by us or we discuss it. And by lower the stakes, I mean, how can I tie this together? You know, when I was saying that the guy who says, "What difference does it make? Let's lean into that." That's what I mean by lower the stakes. In other words, the guy you're talking about, the stakes for him are very high. He's got a high mental investment to the point where he's prepared to lie to defend that investment. Now, if you can metaphorically lower the stakes, say, no, you can keep that. It's indifferent to how it's measured. And in fact, you know, understanding and knowing how it's measured supports your belief. It's just an advanced understanding in your belief. But nothing will change, knowing that it's measured flat. You see what I'm driving at, Brian? It's an attempt to... It's driven through empathy. It's a weakness. This is why psychopaths do well. They don't give a toss. Me thinking, how can I position this so that my opponent has a softer into the subject without it making him feel like something's being massively sacrificed? Well, that's too much empathy. You know, psychopath, who cares? That's why they do well and rise to the top, because they don't care. This will just slow us down.
Yeah, I had a similar thing in regards to the stakes and when people are so heavily invested in that way 24/7. So we used to have the Arena, which was a debate platform, which had specific rules that even had like carved out powers for the moderators versus the guests. So like regular moderators couldn't interfere, all this kind of stuff. One of the things that happened in there quite often is things got heated, right? It was kind of a contentious back and forth sometimes. So some people thought, okay, if we have this in our server, it's going to give out a bad message. It's going to make people think less of us. And because to them, the stakes were so high in the way that it was presented, they actually intentionally sabotaged it in the background by doing things like gossip, backbiting, lying about what people's intentions were, claiming that certain people were attempting to take over the server. They did this whole background campaign to the point where we had basically lost the ability to do it for years. All because it was like, oh my God, if somebody's down here in the arena yelling at someone, it's going to defeat the entire flat Earth argument. Everybody's going to die. Cats are going to marry dogs. Salt and pepper isn't going to taste good anymore. You know, like they had this huge drama in their heads. Got it. And they had to inflict pain on other people.
Exactly, you're getting it. Exactly. You know, there's a high. I can't think of the words. I'm so frazzled. The stakes are too high for our opponent. You know what I mean? We need to take it from being high dollar bill value stakes to nickeling and diming in these gambles and forays into these discussions. You know, metaphorically, the cards that you're holding, and Brian saying, well, when the cards are all laid down face up and everyone sees that you've lost, you can't just turn the table over. They're more likely to if it's $10,000 on the table rather than a few nickels and dimes. Shout out to Tony Wickham for hitting the super chat. Thank you so much for the financial support. It's one of those that, in the short term, I know in past times when I've had things like this that are financially trying, people have supported me and I've got the problem solved. But it's one of them that in the short term, that's fantastic, and I am so grateful, Tony. Thank you. That's the main point I want to make here. It's one of those that my upset isn't. It's twofold, and I've gone through both of them, but I'll just say them again. One is that I'm in this position to begin with, which is to say, for all the work and being run down, burning the candle at both ends, trying to write a book, extend the channel, duo me, keep basically 2 channels running, Nathan Oakley and Nathan Oakley 1980, keep audience participation high, keep an eye on the stats. It's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job, and it's burning me out. You know, that's the reality of it, right? Now, for that, the hope would be that I wouldn't need to, you know, rely on, which is what this comes down to, Tony. Now, I'm not trying to demean your financial support, Tony, and I'm so grateful, because it absolutely helps when you throw me 100 quid, you know, because I could potentially put that towards just solving the problem, right? Yeah, great. But I don't want to be e-begging, right? I want to be able to be that guy that just goes, oh, right, I'll solve that problem because I can. You know, in other words, the channel was doing just maybe 10, 15, 20% better than it is, rather than me being on the knife edge than I am. Further to that, when that's required, and I want to talk about the subject, which is being, I'm now interrupting that, by the way, and I appreciate that, so I'll try and keep this brief. Right, when I want to keep the subject and standards high, and I'm thinking about that when I'm umming and ahhing about going out live today, I know what I've already disclaimed to Brian. I don't want to be persecuted for having an off day by the public that only wants my blood to give them a night's sleep. Then my blood will represent 1 pill of pain relief medicine for their failing globe zealotry. And it's like, I don't want to give my blood for that, I'm afraid. You know, but I don't want that either. And again, that can't be bought. You know, we're talking about lowering the stakes. Now, that doesn't translate to lowering the value of my YouTube work, but that is ultimately still low. So when I'm sitting here thinking, I'm miserable, it's like, well, why are you miserable? Well, because you're on a knife edge financially, and you're in a position where the ridicule you receive is the direct reason you're financially not that stable. Yeah? In other words, the suppression of the YouTube channel, the promotion of Simon Dan and Muktoon or anybody else that wants to go onto TikTok, because creatures of habit will find their way onto expanding platforms to get the same beneficial treatment that they've had on YouTube. So why are they going on to TikTok? Because it's an easy argument. No, because they'll get the same algorithmic favoritism that they've been offered here on YouTube. The opportunities are greater for our opponents. Well, that is, you know, something that can't be solved easily. It's not something that we can change society. So you go about, again, this is having too much empathy. How do I lower the stakes for my opponent? How do I get them to see that this isn't, it's not a big deal? This is, you know, this is not that big. What's the words the guy from Frame Chasers? It's not that serious, right? Yeah, it's flat. It's just not that serious. Nothing's changing because you found this out. It always was flat. It's measured flat.
Sorry,
and that's how it's
Nathan, I
working.
have to disagree there. No.
Okay, go on.
If you're telling someone that nothing's going to change, that's not true. You're not being honest with them. Or
Yeah,
yourself, if that's what you believe.
It's true.
It's not true. Salt and pepper. I'll use AI example. Salt and pepper will still be salt and pepper, right? Certain things will still be the same. But there's other things that are not going to be the same. As soon as the world accepts that it's not, that they're not living on what they were being taught and told they were living on, that is going to change things. There's no point in telling someone that that's not going to change things. That when they look, even something simple as when they look at the movies they have on their computer and they see Aliens, the movie they might have loved, will they still be able to watch it? Something as even as small as that. That's a change.
That's a psychological or sociological impact. But that was manufactured and didn't have any foundation in reality to begin with. So you're saying their mental perception of the world will change radically. Yeah, that's true.
Yes. But isn't that the biggest, that's kind of like they've made our imagination our biggest identity. And while simultaneously putting into our imaginations whatever they've wanted, including how to think, which is why we fall for these things. So the moment you start unwrapping that, everything around you becomes dark. Like, if that
I'm
makes
glad
sense.
you used that
like,
word. So kind of like Plato's cave. So if you're saying that the guys in Plato's cave will have a tough job dealing with the fact that the shadows weren't real, yeah, you're right. But if I'm going to try and entice them out of the cave because they're chastising me when I tell them there's something outside the cave that they won't believe me about, I need to tempt them out. Now, if tempting them out involves stakes aren't as high as you thought, nothing will change. It's always been measured flat. The way the globe's created is with those measurements off the ground flat. But it won't change anything.
No, Nathan. What you just said there, you need to have a look at yourself. Telling somebody that is like you're trying to sell them something.
We are.
It's like you're a dodgy salesman.
We are.
I'm sorry.
Adam says it. We're selling shit. What do you want? We are.
But
you're not selling. No.
But that's the thing, like, because the things that matter most to people, the things that they have left, because the system, well, no, the way they've played the game, for whatever reason, they're failing. And so what little they have left is their social capital. This conversation is, at least to date, kills that. If you're not savvy, if you're not somebody like you, Nathan, or somebody like any of us on the panel, when people make you feel like you don't know what you're talking about, even though you do know what you're talking about, you're in the right, but everybody's in the fun wrong sandbox.
Okay, let me explain what I mean by nothing will change. Did you ever see the Futurama episode about Slurm? Anybody see that?
I haven't.
I do remember something, but you'd have to remind me.
Perfect. I'm going to talk to you then, Brian, because you've got a vague memory of it. There's an episode where everyone's favourite drink is Slurm. It's canned up, it's everywhere, it's available widely, and people drink it, and they're fond of it, and it's the favourite drink of everybody. Well, Fry, the main character, finds out that Slurm is squeezed out of the most horrendous-looking alien you've ever seen. It's a bit like milk, but from an alien, and it looks like Mountain Dew. It's like Mountain Dew, but squeezed out of an alien. Now, in knowing the truth, in terms of what you consume, nothing changes. The drink's the same. It still tastes the same. It's just you now know that it's got a really awful origin. So when I say, as a salesperson, I can say to that guy, look, when I show you how it's made, I can guarantee, I'll sign a contract. Nothing will change. The cans you buy off the shelf won't change. The taste won't change. Nothing will change. Now you're saying, yeah, but their perception will radically alter. Yeah, it will, yeah. You're pulling back the curtain. You're taking away the suspension of disbelief. But does that mean the stage show doesn't continue? No, the stage show continues and you can still get into the audience and sit down, if you choose to. But you'll know it's a stage.
How will the stage show continue when people know that it's a stage? You said yourself, you can't even watch movies and things you used to love. It's not. It's going to. And you are very.
So no. That's you're mixing my metaphor. So you're saying I choose in that example. The stage show continues. There's still space shows, Brian. It's just I don't choose to go into the theatre and sit down and watch them anymore. Yeah, but I could still indulge myself in that suspension of disbelief if I chose to. And it's the same for a globe believer. You can still. I promise you that my information about Earth being flat will not change how your globe is constructed, how it functions, and if you choose to, you can remain in that belief structure if you choose to. Nothing I do will alter how the globe works when I show you how Earth is measured to produce it. It always was measured flat.
Just wanted to say, as a matter of ballers prefer that. Like people like Matthew Learns, there are a select few ballers that I do have to give credit where if we're having a conversation and I've called them out on a fallacy and I say, well, then you don't really have evidence. You don't really have measurements. You just believing this. And they admit, yeah, I am, because this is all I have. And this is what makes me feel the best. I feel most confident about this. It's about my belief, and you can't tell me not to believe it. So it's like, yeah, if you know it's a belief, it's all right, fine, you can have it.
Nathan, to me, it sounds like you're trying to sell everyone the very thing Bev was trying to sell people, which is the real globe.
No.
Bev,
the globe exists whether I'm not selling them that.
You
No.
are. Let me.
No.
You are.
No, I'm not.
Yes,
I'm
you
showing
are.
them around the factory.
You don't know that you're doing it, but you are.
Okay, if you say so. No, I'm not. Showing how the globe came to fruition for them to believe in it is not me selling them. They've already got the car. I'm saying, look how dangerous the conditions the car was made in. They've already got the car. I'm not selling them the car. What are you on about?
No, Bev's point, right, with that whole real globe thing, because I understood him the minute I heard him talk about it, is that level is horizontal like it is in reality on the real globe. In other words, the globe is something that's in your mind that you can just use to be part of and believe in, and nothing.
Well,
everything's the same. It's just that it's just on the real globe, level is horizontal.
That's incorrect, isn't it?
Well,
that's a lie. Hold on.
People, they live in a contradiction.
Stop. No, because that is a contradiction when you say on. I say the way it's constructed, and then the end result is in. And that's what's on every diagram, because that is how it's functioning. If you show me an orbit, it will be described from the centre of hell. That will be its rotation point for an axis with respect to a plane, and its orbital motion with respect to a plane. It's always from the centre of hell. Now, does that mean that I'm selling you that we can stand in hell? Absolutely not, of course not. How we're actually measuring it is with respect to this plane, and when I describe and detail how that gets projected out through Haversine formulation and celestial sphere, accurate mapping of these locations with respect to the ground position, I can then elaborate, if they need me, on how to then convert that into the almanac so that you've got a vague semblance of globe claim within the almanac as well. I can detail all of it, but that is showing them the dodgy brakes, the horrendous work conditions in the Ford factory, not standing in a showroom trying to sell them the globe. They've already bought the globe. Me showing them the origins is not me selling them the globe or telling them they're selling on, which is where you're suggesting Bev does this thing that I'm definitely not doing.
No. Bev is telling them the same thing as you, just in a different way.
I'm not.
Yeah, he is. You can still have your globe. It's okay. But level is horizontal.
Belief. You can still retain your globe belief if you choose to.
Yes, that's what he's telling them.
After you know how Earth is measured flat to produce it. Now, that's giving them the contrast of the measurements with how the globe belief gets produced from them, and then saying, if you choose to still believe this, you can. You can, that's just a matter of fact. I'm not saying you should, or you would, or, in fact, quite reverse. When you know the contrast, you suddenly go, well, why would I believe in that if I know it's measured flat? Yeah, that's where I'm leading them. As opposed to, oh, I know it's measured flat, but that means it's okay because I'm actually on a ball. No, you're not. The functionality is inside a ball, and it gets projected out. But that doesn't mean that you can stand on the surface that's projected. But that's how it's functioning for you to believe you're standing on it. It's up to you if you then retain it. It seems unlikely that they would if they understand basic logic at that point.
Fun fact, just a quick aside. If you guys remember the episode that Witsit was on 10 days after when we were all trying to be calm, I think it was that episode when we were talking about elevation angles. He made a slip in set elevation angle from in the earth. See, I don't know if that's indoctrination or if he really is as smart as some of y'all think he is, and conniving as y'all think he is. I don't know.
I'd say this about Witsit. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair for people to keep saying he's stupid. He's obviously not stupid. Now, is he honest? No. He's not honest, but he's not stupid. Just saying he's stupid is wrong. What is it, Neil?
Is it make somebody smart if they could just repeat things that they read halfway through? Does that make them smart?
It's not about that, Neil. It's about you have to be clever in some way to be able to do what he does. A stupid person can't just bamboozle people like that. Now, how smart he is, I don't know, right? But I would not call him stupid. He makes mistakes and he tries to double speak and lie his way around it and he gets things wrong. I'm not saying it. I think he's lacking in wisdom in a lot of ways, Neil, right? But is he stupid? No. It's not correct to call him stupid. That is not correct. Could you say he's stupid, Neil? Honestly?
I think he's an idiot. I'm gonna what's up with that. I think he's very
Eli.
Reads books, he digests it and spits it out.
I didn't hear any of that really, Neil, to be honest with you. Sorry.
Yeah, see, Eli was off mute. Try one more time, Neil.
I said I think he's book smart, like he reads things and absorbs the information and spits it out, but that don't make you smart.
Jolly good.
Back in a second, I'll respond there, and I have to just do something with the power, the electricity upstairs.
How very Irish. Mike money.
Well, I think it's stupid when somebody's bringing you.
Oh, you're cutting off, Neil. Shout out to Roger Ledwell. He sends a super chat. He says, Mike money. Thank you very much for the Mike money. Neil, you're roboting. Okay.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's Dunning-Kruger and he lacks wisdom. That might literally be the only problem. And pride. Witsit.
How did we get onto Witsit? Did I miss something?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it'll get covered again, I'm sure, on whenever QE goes live again, presumably on Tuesday.
But it actually is quite interesting, like our case, right? As far as the it's just loud everywhere here. I'm sorry.
That's all right. We're going through Witsit stuff forensically in more detail than even people like behavioural panel or deception detective when they analyse what people say. The level that QE is going to in this regard is excruciating. You know, he's going through it word by word and assessing every statement for its validity. And it's a tall order, but you want to leave absolutely no doubt whatsoever in the mind's eye of the person that's watching that. That's the way to do it. Of course, the only problem with that, and this caused a bit of ruckus in the panel when we were trying to assess it last time, when there's a high degree of forensic scrutiny going on, everybody's got to be fair game for QE to go away doing it with Witsit. That is to say that if he's going to go word by word by word for Witsit, he's got to do the same for us or anybody that's putting a response or a claim to him or addressing a claim he's put to us. That also has to have the same level of scrutiny. Now, unfortunately, there's points that the panel would disagree because it's, oh, well, you didn't say anything here. It's like, their silence shouldn't be getting held against them, but in terms of a forensic assessment, in order to at least, get the audience to know that it is balanced, that unspoken criticism has to be aired if it's to be deemed reasonable to forensically criticise Whitsitt. So it's a tough one, because when the panel are around, they want to defend themselves, and it's like, I don't know, me telling them, no, you need to look past that, even if you don't think he's right, QE that is, because this is a forensic analysis. So it has to all you can't metaphorically leave the powder for the fingerprints from hitting certain parts that you've touched and know you've touched. You just dust it all. Well, yeah, your fingerprints are going to be there, but what, you've got a justifiable reason, and it's like, no, all we're doing is we're highlighting and putting a black light on the fingerprints, and yours are there, so let's just point them out and move on, so that nobody says, why didn't you highlight the fact that there was 2 sets there? Someone's going to get fussy about that, so Q has to put everything that's under the black light under the same scrutiny. So yeah, it did delay things though with Adam and Brian and myself, popping in with our excuses. And obviously, we all feel that they're justified, but you've got to strike a balance between offending you and keeping the forensic analysis going. I'm done.
No, we didn't say Adam. It's not that. Is he trying to say that Adam didn't know that, or I didn't know that, or other people on the panel didn't know that? We didn't say Adam because we were trying to be quiet because you were speaking up with it. I remember us having a conversation around that time where you were saying, and we all agreed that we can't be all jumping in. We must be just leaving whoever is speaking, which is normally going to be you, speaking with it, or whoever comes in. Like, I would have come in for sure if I thought no one else was going to say it, but not if I was under the impression that I'm supposed to be quiet. Then I'll just hold my tongue. So it's not fair. It's not fair to land on us. I'm sorry.
It's also not fair to land whether the argument is going to be made or broken based on a period of a few minutes where nobody retorts every point, because these points don't exist in a vacuum, right? They're surrounded by other shows, review shows, etc. So if somebody doesn't get a chance to retort a specific point at a specific time, it's not the end of the world, and it's definitely not worth castigating your fellow members over to a certain degree. It's one thing to point it out, then they say, okay, yeah, I knew that, but I didn't say it for this reason. It's another thing to drag it out into there's something wrong with the person for not saying it in the moment, because that's just too much of a burden to bear for anybody. And it's not fair to the community or to your friends or even your enemies for that matter.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that, because, I mean, trying to indict us there it's just unfair. I mean, if he told us that, and we knew that from years before that, then why would we not? Like, if we didn't say it, it's for a good reason. Not that we didn't know it.
Sorry, what did you say? I was being distracted about headlight model numbers. Sorry, what did you say, Brian? I was completely distracted.
What did I say when, Nathan? In response to AI, or what I said to you a minute ago? Or
I don't know. I
Did
wasn't
you hear
paying
any of that?
attention. I was being asked something. Just this is why we're not going out to the public. I'm frazzled, and I don't know what to ask you to get this conversation back on track and be informed about what's going on.
I need some information in my way too, though. I don't know what you did or didn't hear. I don't know.
I can't concentrate. I'm so sorry.
Well, basically, Nathan, my point being that it's unfair to put that indictment on us from QE over that thing we didn't say. Because we all didn't say it. There must be a reason why no one said it. It's not that everyone on the panel just sat there and said nothing because they didn't know it or didn't catch it. I mean, he knows that's not correct. He can't. Is he going to indict Adam on that? Come on, like.
No, it's not. It seems unreasonable, but having not responded to something, the fact that it lacked a response is going to be highlighted. The fact that there's a justifiable reason for it is neither here nor there. Wit sits under the forensic microscope. The problem is, as I made metaphorically speaking earlier, our fingerprints are there too. And yeah, they're going to get looked at under the black light.
I don't see the big deal. It's okay.
No, there is a big deal. Right. None of us want to be perceived
I mean, like,
as making
sorry.
what's forensically analysed as a critical error when it's absolutely justified, and not only justified, it should require thanks from me in that instance, which is like, thank you for not all rumpusing, because there's probably 10 points a minute that need addressment, and the panel are all sat there relying on me catching them all, and even when one isn't, in this case, a claim of scientific validity not being there because of having man-made equipment. Now, that wasn't picked up on because one of the other multitude scattergun points that Witsit's thrown out are being addressed, and the panel are being indicted for leaving that one unaddressed. And you go, okay, well, if it was a courtroom setting, in fact, I had this happen to me, right? So I was suing somebody, and there was a time discrepancy, which is to say, the person I was suing was suggesting that an event occurred at a certain time. Now, throughout the proceedings, while witnesses were being called and various other things were taking place in the proceedings, there was a timeline that was being given from the person I was suing that ran a certain way. Now, I'd never leaned across to my brief and said, actually, while they're saying it's 5:30, it's actually 3 p.m. I just never mentioned it. So it comes to the point where I'm on the stand, and I then start giving my version of events with my timeline, which is accurate, and the judge got fuming mad. He went, this has gone totally unaddressed. He got mad, and I didn't know what the hell was going on, and my brief's shuffling paper, and I'm like, what's going on? Now, obviously I found out after the fact because I asked her, my barrister, I'm like, what was that all about? And she's like, at the point that they're saying it's 5:30, it should have been challenged by me, by the barrister, based on the fact that I had it at my fingertips that timeline's incorrect. Therefore, it needs to be challenged, and it hadn't. So the entire course of disclosures come in terms of evidential verbal information, and it's not been challenged, right? So QE, when he's got this under the forensic microscope, it just has to point out that this is unaddressed. Now, he's laying blame at your door because you're the only door to lay it at if something's not being addressed. Who else can he lay it at? When he did it, I remember when he did it the second time. I'm nearly done. When he did it the second time, he went through every single person on the panel and indicted all of us equally, because he can't not do that when doing a forensic analysis. I'm done.
I wanted to. I'm sorry. I know I kind of just was like, what's the big idea? You know, really, I think that it's good that it bothers you because it makes you want to do better. But it's honestly a good thing to be critiqued and to self-critique and get better, because you'll be able. You already do. You catch things that I would never catch in like a plank time. Yeah, so it's only making you better to be critiqued like that. Internal critique, self-critique.
The critique's not justified. This is the problem.
Yeah.
The critique is justified by the method that Q is utilising. There's no way around that. However, if there is a grievance, the door... God, I don't have to do this. We've got there. Sorry. Jesus, please forgive me. The door that the blame needs to be laid at is not QE for pointing it out. It's me. If you're going to be angry at someone, Brian, Adam, anybody else in the panel that was indicted by QE for not saying anything about man-made device not making it science, why didn't you say anything? You're all indicted. Yeah, you are, and that will never change, right? Doesn't matter how much you like it. Biting your tongue didn't serve you well. Whose fault is that, though? Mine. You trusted that I would address it, which is why you bit your tongue, and I let you down. Therefore, you cannot keep laying the blame at QE's door for pointing it out. There was not a response. It did not get addressed. Therefore, it has to be pointed out. He's got to indict all of us equally, and did. That's the only thing he can do. But then, who do you go to say, I've been indicted for this? That's your fault, Nathan. And that would be the
No.
correct order of things. Because
No.
I did not address
no,
it.
hold on a second.
You trusted me to
Wait a
address it.
second. Hold on. Wait a second. I remember clearly after this whole incident, I don't know if it was an after show or the next day, I brought it up. What he said. We all knew what he said.
Whitson was saying
I
that
agree with
before
you,
he went
Nathan.
on to that. Sorry.
I agree with you, Nathan. I know it was a long, logical string of things to put there. And I'm saying I followed you the whole way, and I kind of agree. F it, he's going to be upset in the grand scheme of things. When our grandchildren are watching this, we would have wished someone would have pointed it out which cue he did. But we know that really it's Nathan's fault. Totally get it.
Whitson
Yeah, I get it.
was saying that, if I remember correctly, there was evidence of him saying that prior to being on that show. Right? Now,
Exactly.
I'm okay with indictment when it's deserved. But that's not what happened. And so was Adam. But that isn't what happened. What happened is that me and everyone else on the panel, because I can't speak for everyone, but I think I can, in this instance, I can say everyone on the panel would know that that's incorrect. So why did nobody out of maybe 6 or 8 people join, and people probably in Discord as well, why did no one chime up? Right? Yeah, you were wrong for not holding them to task on it, Nathan. You should have got held them to it on it, or spotted it and held them on it. Yeah, that's okay, right? But if that's the case, then Huey should just say it to you. He should say it to you and not be making it into everyone's fault. Because it's not everyone's fault. And to say that Adam, just use Adam, never mind everyone else. What about Adam? You tell me Adam doesn't know that?
Sorry, I'm talking headlights again. Hold on, hun. I'm saying hold on, hun, while I'm off mute to my audience. I'm so freaking frazzled. I'll talk to you about it later, Paula. I shouldn't have come off mute before the end of my conversation with my wife. What's going on? Yes, that's absolutely right, Brian. Totally agree. Was it Brian talking?
Oh, I gave up on it. Look, I just straight out, it's unfair for him to lay that at our doorstep because he's fully aware that we would have just been quiet, because of the situation.
It sounds like you haven't liked any of my analogies. He's got to put the report in as is, and you're saying it's not fair? No, it's not, but that's my fault, not his, for pointing out that it didn't get addressed. It didn't get addressed. That has to be pointed out. It wasn't addressed. He can only indict anybody.
I understand it.
He could have indicted just me, but on the report for the court to read, they go, it wouldn't make sense. Why are you indicting the single person when none of them addressed it? Oh, well, then he adds to the report, but they all justified after the fact that you're like, why are you putting caveats in the report? You're supposed to just be unbiased and say what did or didn't happen. Well, what did happen? Nothing. Nobody addressed it. So that's got to be pointed out because it was something that was laid on the table by Whitsitt.
Yeah, but that's going to be detrimental because now we're in a position. I now have to point something out regardless of the situation. Regardless of how sensitive
because
the situation is, I now have to put in. I have no. That's it. It's done. I have to.
No, just on the off chance that hold on, just let me get my response in. Hello, can I just get my response in? I heard it 4 times. You have to. Thank you. Yeah, but in the face of the potential for a forensic analysis, you'll have to address every point that's left on the table. Because of a potential forensic analysis that you may be indicted for if the person talking doesn't eventually get to it. In the exact same circumstances, that means you've got to forever be that guy that interrupts incessantly for every minor bit of chaff that gets thrown out there. Still chaff. In spite of this forensic analysis, in spite of everything, I'd still say it was chaff. Did it have any relevance to proving ether, proving it's a wave, proving it has to traverse, or being the contrapositive that he's now lied about, him never claiming it bloody moves or travels?
Nothing
to do with the double slit having man-made stuff in it and that making it not science, which is obvious bollocks, that's pure chaff when we're talking with Witsit about his proof of ether, isn't it? It's pure chaff.
Yep. So I got a word of advice for everyone listening if they hear my voice. It's actually okay to be criticized after the fact instead of trying to be perfect in the moment. You know, it's okay. Like if Quantum Eraser does a critique video on you, you'll survive. Okay, I promise. I promise. You don't have to speak up and interrupt everyone to make sure all points are heard in the immediate moment. I promise that you can actually object like 5 minutes later and say, hey, let's revisit that thing from 5 minutes ago. I promise you'll all survive. I promise.
Okay, yeah, I get the subtle undertones. Short of calling Brian a big girl. Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that with me today. I'm very sensitive.
AI is correct. AI is correct in what he's saying. We'll all survive and whatever else. And yeah, that's fine. I agree with all that.
All right,
but
great.
I don't care.
You get over it, you big bloody girl.
I don't care. Right? And Adam would be the same. If I'm going to be indicted on such a stupid thing like that when it's obvious that I knew the answer and I didn't vote in because I was just being quiet, I was expecting you to say it, Nathan.
Yes, don't
Right.
so blame me.
Right.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. The blame gets laid at my door.
The point being is, I can't allow that to ever pass now again. If I hear something, I have to.
No, that's a different statement. So now you're saying you can never trust me. Hold on.
If I'm being indicted, it has to be for a legitimate reason.
Yeah, but that means that your indictment now becomes, well, I can't trust that you'll get to those things, so I'll have to rumpus you to get them in because I can't trust that you'll do it.
No, it doesn't matter whether you'll do it or not. It's not about you now.
Well, I mean, to be honest, this whole thing is like it's a lot deeper. It's so stupid. I don't even know why we're talking about it.
Oh, that cheers me up. Right. So I've got a super chat and it's subject related rather than headlight pity related. Obviously, I want money. I want to pay for headlights. But by the same token, I want people to be giving me super chats because they're so enthused with the material, right? So thank you very much for the super chat. It's VR Christian. Have I said that right? Christian. Yeah, it's VR Christian. Been listening for the last 2 years. Thank you. The work you've been doing here is crucial to anyone looking for a standard of critical thinking. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really, really, really appreciate the support. Anyway, sorry to barge in with praise of super chats. That's what I was trying to drive at earlier, right?
That sounds like something you sent to yourself. You may. That sounds a bit made up.
What are you talking about? Someone's actually giving me money. Anyway, they're a member too. Don't be rude. The point is, it's when something goes wrong and you have to specifically detail it, like with headlights. Oh, I've got a problem with headlights. It'll cost X amount to solve, and then someone gives you X amount. You're like, I don't want to have to ask for it. It'd be better that somebody like the. It sounds like I'm almost knocking Tony. I'm definitely not knocking you, super chat, Tony. Thank you so much again. Right, but I want people to be smashing the super chat because, like, I've learned so much about how Earth's measured flat. I've learned about assessing things in a critical manner. I've learned about primary source research. In other words, the things that we actually do, because we're not a car channel or a computer channel. You know what I mean?
But he did.
So if
Nathan, I want to encourage you. He did do that. What he did, what he said with that in the subtext is, I want you to have some financial security so that you can concentrate on the content that I enjoy.
Yes. And that's exactly what I want. I'm feeling a lot better now. I'm a bit more cheered up because my wife's on the case. She's got this way of knowing that when I'm very distressed about something, it means please look at this and try and tend to it immediately so I don't have to stress. And she's doing exactly that. But that means it also simultaneously comes with show interruptions, which also is frustrating. But there we go. We're not live to the public, so the members are a lot more tolerant. Hence, I've said it several times. But yeah, I've just read it again from Tony, and yeah, exactly. You're right. Thank you for all this financial support.
There's another super chat in. It's from Tom T.R. Johnson. Keep doing the good work, Nathan. $20.
Where's that? Oh, Mr. Super Chat.
I don't know. It's as made up as the last one.
Huh? Okay. Jolly good. Brian's throwing me off. Anyway, thank you for the super chats. Really appreciate all the support. We do actually have a live audience, by the way. I hope you appreciate that. That's why I'm getting super chats in, which is not live to the public.
Anyway, I have a method to curtail this need for incessant on-the-spot interjections because somebody doesn't want to be criticized later. The simplest way to do it is just say, "Oh, I have a point when you wrap that up." And then Nathan recognizes that, and not only recognizes when somebody says that, but also recognizes that maybe every 3 to 5 minutes he needs to pause and say, "You know what? Let's ask the panel. Hey, what do you think about what just happened?"
That's a
You can
very
just
good
preempt
idea.
all that, and then
Yes.
everyone gets an opportunity. And then he could say, "Okay, I recognize that objection, but I'm only taking one objection now. If you have other objections, we'll get to it later because we got to steamroll on. Let's go.
That seems
Easy
perfect.
peasy.
Let's just put that to Brian. How does that
Yeah,
sound,
that
Brian?
sounds good. That sounds good. Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Excellent. So therefore, it means that I've got to obviously temper myself to be a bit less selfish and, you know, take a breath, assess the people around me and whether or not they've got a desire to chase some chaff so that they won't get, you know, criticised under the microscope potentially at a later date. Fine.
No, you can remove that too. You don't even need that stigma anymore because once it becomes a part of the protocol, the way you do things, the idea of that stigma is entirely removed. And then everybody's on the up and up. Nobody's feeling bad. Nobody has untoward motives. It's all good for everyone.
Yes, I completely agree. That was an exceptionally good idea. An easy, obviously, it seems like it's easy solution when someone else has come up with it. Yeah, it is though, isn't it? In other words, if I'd have taken a pause in the middle of that tete-a-tete with Witsit and said, bloody hell, Witsit, you're a complete moron. Anybody else got anything to add on what Witsit just went through for the last 2 minutes of verbal diarrhea? Well, Brian would have piped up immediately and Adam would have, what are you talking about? It's not science because it's got man-made devices. Are you a numpty? Problem solved.
Right. And you don't even have to bear that burden entirely yourself. So, for example, sometimes you have, for lack of a better term, people that take the role of handler. Like, for example, Flatsy, let's say she's usually in the background calling out Super Cat, calling out whatever. She could actually, in her mind, be like, "Oh, Nathan, real quick, remember Brian had an objection from a few minutes back. Let's address it now." And you can be like, "Oh, yeah, great idea. Let's do it." Problem solved.
Just so you
perfect.
know, I don't want to be doing this. I just wanted to keep it going as it was, to be quiet when I'm expected to be quiet, regardless of what's said. And the same with Adam. Adam will say the same. But I can guarantee Adam is on the same line as me. That now, because we're being indicted, I don't mind being indicted if I just missed it, if it's stupid. That's fine. Right. I can be stupid. Yeah, that's fine. But when it's not the case, then it's unfair indictment. And that's the problem. The problem is the unfair indictment. That's the actual problem. I don't want to be even doing what AI is saying. I don't.
In a social...
Well, you know,
Go on, Eli.
this is very... let me get my good mic to say this. It's arbitrary because at the same time, the last encounter we had, to me, because this is arbitrary, the most objectionable thing is him saying we were strawmanning him, and only QE and I responded to that. And when everyone else was responding, they didn't respond to that. I was so upset. As a matter of fact, that's why I kind of jumped on the back of AI, because at the same time I was fuming about that. Like, so yeah, okay, it's nice to facilitate new ways of communication when we're in the heat. I know you understand you're a little selfish sometimes, and so Flatsy coming in because she does break the air. Like when she says super chat, everybody knows to chill. So it'd be very easy to also allow her to say, "Oh yeah, by the way, there was this point." But I mean, this whole conversation is ridiculous in the first place. I don't know.
Eli, you're going to tell me that you were with him at 24/7 for how long? He knows that that's not true. He said that thinking we're all going to jump on that. That's what I'm thinking, that we're going to jump on that like dogs and move away from the argument, and we didn't bite.
Yeah, that was just as dumb
as when he said, "Show me the container." But we did address that though. But
Exactly.
it's on the same level. Like, what are you talking? Like, you know better than that.
Nah, well, not when it's being forensically analysed. Any little detail's going to come to the surface and be highlighted. So I get the gripe, but that's the only way to do it when you're doing it that way. And I get that it's going to put some people's back up when it's, well, this bit's, the microscope's looking at this bit now. Yeah, well, surely they could have just brushed the microscope past that bit. There's a reason why that bit's there, or not there, as the case may be. Well, yeah, there is.
Come on, Nathan. How did you miss that anyway?
There you go. That's the right attitude.
Did you hear it?
Too much verbal diarrhea and chaff to keep a track of, Neil. I mean, I thought I did an exceptional job of keeping track of 90% of the spewed garbage, putting it back in the correct order, and undoing it with every summary multiple times. So to have missed one thing, in my humble opinion, is justifiable. However, I will accept that did not get addressed. And everything is potential for address. It is still chaff with regards to the subject, but overall, is it chaff? No, we are hyper-specific about science, what it is or isn't, and any deviation from that should be addressed when you look at things with a hyper-analytical eye, which is what QE was doing. So in that regard, this does, to agree with Flatsy, does up our game. You are cautious of it, and then you can go one of two ways. You can go, I'll do it at that cost only, or I'll try and incorporate it with discussion and incorporation from the person who's really to blame, me, of a method that stops it happening in future and still retains, social graces and, good form and not being rude and just rumpusing because you don't want to be under the microscope and get called out again, because then you've got to sacrifice something else, the social interactions that we have built good ties with. And QE's had to balance it up when he's attacking this, and the best he could have done was indict all of us, and that's what he did.
No, he should have indicted you, and he shouldn't even had that. You should have just taken the blame the first day, but you spent days not taking the blame, and now you're taking the blame today because it's after being shared out more.
No, that's wrong.
The brunt is gone.
I wasn't the only one there.
You were the person.
You guys got to get over it. I got to say something. You guys got to get over this "I'm being blamed" shit, dude. Freaking beta, bro. I'm being dead ass serious right now.
Oh, here we go.
Days and days and days arguing about blame this, blame that, when you could just present a constructive way to move forward, and everybody just kumbaya, hold hands, and do it better next time. For goodness sakes, that's the whole point of after action review. Think about it this way, friends. When you're in the heat, you can't do this type of review. It's impossible. That's why we have the review after the fact, for goodness sakes.
Considering how rough I feel, it's nice to be able to recognise what's going on. You've tried the stick and now you're trying the carrot. No, it's the other way around. Damn. You've already done that. I completely appreciate, and we all agreed with you in terms of how we can move forward. But I'll take this on the chin too. I just want to moan about it. I'm going to, in spite of the fact that I'm showing perceived humility by saying the blame should be laid at my door.
I blame myself because I actually have a time machine. So I'm from the future, so I should have known better.
I'll take it on the chin all day long, right? And I do think it will better us. And it is a grievance that is right to have, but there's no solution to it from QE's perspective. There really isn't. You can move forward with it. Doesn't mean you're not going to feel a bit like you've had your nose put out when someone's put your nose out.
I want to move forward. I do. I'm just not jiving with, now that I'm thinking about it, the way you tried to make some sort of degree of separation between our responsibility and then your responsibility and who the blame falls on. Because why are we acting like we didn't have the conversation where y'all were explicit about us shutting the fuck up? Like in those words.
Yeah. See, Neil's got it. Eli's got it. Yeah, you can blame me. You told us to shut up and now we got told off for it.
No,
yeah.
But my question is, QE though, did he not know that?
Yes, he absolutely knows that. But does that change what goes on the report? It's not necessary for the report. The report is a forensic analysis of what got said, and that is it.
No. F off, officer, is what I tell
You see, you can direct your anger at me. That's perfectly justified. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch that bit of chaff and address it as would be appropriate to do so, given the level of scrutiny that we could, and now have, undergone. Fortunately, it's been done by a friendly. Thank God it was QE and not one of our enemies.
Well, I'll say, as being the new flat earther on the scene, I wasn't there when all this happened. I don't know if I was actually even a flat earther. But when this happened, it's nice and refreshing to see somebody has a panel that does that self-critique and internal critique instead of just talking heads. Nobody does anything to challenge it. They're above reproach, this and that. You know, that would be more alarming to me, and any other onlooker that would feel similar to the way I do.
Hey, Flatty, guess what? So within the past 3 days, Witsit told us while he was here, when we were mentioning things about half-drafted critique and self-review and in-house things, he said, you know what? I've never actually done that to my own work. Well, guess what? If it's the case that we're critiquing his body of work, which he's not really being able to actively represent it, don't you think maybe he should review some of his work?
If I put out content, I would try to regularly, maybe not like go on the show and do the live unless I saw something that needed to be addressed, and then address it in front of the community, or quote unquote community. So if something goes wrong in an episode, you go back and you show them where you were wrong, or that's fine. That's awesome. I love that.
So, Flashy, back when he joined 24/7 to specifically confront Quantum Eraser a few months ago, I specifically
APOC, can you
told him
mute?
that. I said like go ahead.
APOC, can you mute? Go ahead, AI.
I told him you need to go back through your material, find out what you think you said, what supports what you said, and supports your position. Compile it right into a presentation that you and other people can watch in a short amount of time, right? Not only will that help his point, right, from his point of view, but it will help him critique, and it'll also help other people be able to critique, right? So to this day, he arrives back in our arenas, and he still hasn't done that. And it was perfect advice. I mean, I don't know, I thought it was great advice that anybody should take. If you got a point and you want to make it, and you've been criticized for your past presentation or your point, don't you think you should review your past presentation to critique yourself? Seems prudent to me.
Come on, Eli.
I was just saying yes, as a matter of fact. Hold on. It's funny that you say that. It's because we were talking about probably on the after show flat earthers who just don't change. Like they've not come with any new arguments, any new anything. And I just from all of the conversations that we've been having, like I always find a new way to say the same thing, because how many ways can you say the Earth is flat? Well, probably a million. But like there are these citations that I've just gathered. I hold on. I got some screenshots here. And it's just crazy how simple it is. And I'm like, how can I relay this to someone easily? Explain that it's flat, cover the only globe point that they ever bring up, but point to them that that's flat also, right? Which ever talks to me. So I said, okay, there's a difference between direct measurement and indirect measurement. And at best, let's say at best, what ballers believe they have are indirect measurements from flat earth measurements, which are direct measurements. Okay,
Do you
what's
mean
my
calculations?
calculations, or there are yeah, but they'll you could still refer to those as measurements, I'm thinking.
No, you can't.
Well, inferences, they're like an indirect measurement or inference, you know. Anyway, my whole point is there's something that you're doing with the actual direct measurement to come to another conclusion. And for whatever reason they don't believe that, so I'm like, well, let's first deal with that. And so uh something you always say, latitude lines are, on the globe, you only get that from a flat plane. So I just got this one. I googled it, and right here it says latitude lines are directly derived from the elevation angle of Polaris above the horizon. Great. And when they say, well, what do elevation angles have to do with anything? Well, sustainable by design, altitude angle. The altitude angle, sometimes referred to as the solar elevation angle, describes how high the sun appears in the sky. The angle is measured between an imaginary line between the observer and the sun and the horizontal plane the observer is standing on. But we measured it to be a globe millions of years ago. Millions. I mean, thousands of years ago. Isn't there this Eratosthenes dude? Well, here's a citation too. Yes, Eratosthenes essentially made elevation angle measurements by measuring the difference in the angle of the sun's rays at noon between two locations. So again, using flat Earth measurements to claim that's a globe. Like all the citations point back to the same thing. Directly, you're measuring a flat Earth. You can't get out of that.
That's fine. As a sentence, you are directly measuring Earth as being flat, or a flat Earth. That's fine. But there's no direct measurements. There's just measurements. What you're calling direct measurements. You can directly measure something. That's fine to state as a... But indirect measurement, no. There is no such beast as an indirect measurement. You're either measuring something or you're not. And when the globe utilises what they might, pick up and run with, oh, well, it's merely an indirect measurement. No. It's a calculation. There's a measurement that's taken place, and your calculation's based on that measurement.
Okay, sweet.
Other than that, excellent summary. I mean, yeah, exactly. Sorry to major on the minors and not give you praise for the actual point you're making. Well, what's the globe being measured with if you look at Aristophanes' elevation angles? What's an elevation angle? An angle between you and a point in the sky, in your definition, the sun, and the horizontal plane that you stood on. That's what the angle is. One straight line to the ground, one straight line to the item in the sky. In this case, the sun. You're like, okay, so we measure Earth flat, and then you can calculate a globe with those flat Earth measurements. That's the facts of the matter. But nothing changes, Brian. You're still inferring that you've got a curved surface. I wasn't calling you Brian, Eli. I was just picking up from a conversation from earlier, because Brian was saying that...
I'm saying, right, add that in there, clever. The nothing changes. I picked up on it.
Brian thinks I'm a globe salesman like Bev or something. I know for sure and without a doubt that Earth is measured, navigated, built upon, charted, flown on, sailed upon, flat. Earth is flat. You can create a globe with all those measurements, though. And if you choose to believe in the globe after you know how its origins are based in flat Earth angles, in this instance, elevation angles, then you can, factually speaking, you can do that. You can retain that belief if you want to.
Well, AI is the only person that can correct me if I'm wrong. When I'm in 24/7 or any of these spaces these days, I'm looking for people that I can relay this particular message to. And the reason that it has to be this message is because, I mean, if you're going to be having a conversation about me, with me about why I think what I think, then you have to allow me to tell you what I came to tell you. If you're not going to do that, the conversation is going to be over 20 minutes tops. I just don't understand why everyone else feels the need to make everyone understand that they're right. Instead of assessing in 10, 15 minutes whether or not you can even relay the message that you have to the person to begin with. Are they even ready?
Yeah, I can answer that because we're trained in school to live in a consensus-based reality. And I can't remember who said it a couple of days ago, but any single individual that defies what is the consensus is a massive threat to it.
Yeah. So in the environment of places like 24/7 and other places, there's people that are involved in the community whose primary goal in an interaction is to elicit contention, because by bringing up their contentions, it's to them it's a victory. So they won't even listen to your position. They'll criticize your position for the sake of criticism, not for the sake of finding out the truth, but purely for the sake of self-gratified criticism. And that does happen, Eli, and I'm sure you've experienced it.
Yep.
Yeah, especially you and Eli with your terrible mics most of the time. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, see, so Flatsy just demonstrated that there's no reason to criticize us for our mics, because our mics are perfect.
You guys sound all right today.
I think I'm going to package this up and do a little pre-show. Killer Priest. Because that guy wants you on his show like yesterday. But I told him when we're done with the book, we'll go. Did it get like freakishly quiet?
Yeah, I did. But I was going to pop up and say mad respect, though, to everybody on the panel and in the Discord and on the YouTube.
So there's an ancillary effect to this criticism thing, which is that sometimes people are afraid to give criticism because of the fallout from the people that they criticize. Either the person blows it out of proportion, or somebody else blows it out of proportion for them, or the person who they're criticizing just kind of subtly says to their in-group, oh, that person is only criticizing me for this or this reason. In fact, I experienced this in my education series when I was studying being an art teacher. You know, we have our artworks, and part of the task after we complete our artworks is to do a critique, right? And part of the critique is to say the positive things about the person's work, but also to critique their work in the ways that it could be better, the ways in which they failed to accomplish the task set out, et cetera, et cetera. What I found was nobody else in the room said anything negative about anybody's painting. And so when the turn came to me, it became my responsibility to give them constructive feedback that the other people were too cowardly to give, for whatever reasons they had. In my opinion, it was because they didn't want to offend anybody. Rather than say, hey, you clearly didn't do this contrast, which was part of the assignment, right? Or whatever it was. Whatever it was critique. And they deserve to hear an honest critique.
You know, our detriment in this situation, like I mean, just when I say us, I mean just people in general, because they're allowing that benefit to people we've already demonstrated to be liars.
Yes. It broke up at the end, but yes.
Yeah, the problem with Witsit is that regardless if you think he shouldn't be staged, okay, he is being staged. So if he's being staged everywhere else, and then places like this forego criticizing him because they're like, oh, we're not going to give him a stage, we're not going to give him a platform, then where's the good critique going to come from? A 3-year-old that's playing with their Tonka toys? The answer is no. If nobody stands up and critiques people who are otherwise not being critiqued, then you're basically complicit in just watching them wreak havoc upon others, right? So, some people voice the sentiment, why do we ever allow Witsit back here? Why do you allow Witsit here? Why do you allow Witsit there? Like, so he can be publicly critiqued. That's why, for goodness sake.
Yeah, I agree.
To add to that, like, for whatever reason, we have this adverse reaction to critique. Critique isn't bad. Don't confuse. Don't. I mean, okay. Let me address this. We have. I'm assuming that people have this feeling from ballers that ballers are critiquing their arguments. No, if they're responding in a non sequitur fashion, then they're actually not critiquing what you're saying. They're not critiquing your position at all. That's not a real critique. But what I'm saying is, somebody fussing at you is not justified to be called a critique. But what we're doing with Witsit is critique. We're not saying he's a sack of doo doo and that's why his argument is trash. Like we're raising relevant points. That's the difference between a critique and somebody just talking smack about you.
Well, there's a difference between using brutal truth as a weapon and just being honest. That's the thing. You can use truth as a weapon. Some people do to try and cut people down all the time. We all know people like that. We all met those people or worked with those people. They're related to us something, right? Whereas used as a weapon. But we don't use it as a weapon. If we're critiquing somebody, even if it's even if it's just one of us, it's not used as a weapon. And that's the difference. I mean, people have to see that when we're critiquing with it, and people say he's on our side, kind of thing. Well, not. If he's on our side, then why is he pushing stuff that's nonsense? And why then are ye critiquing us for critiquing him for pushing the nonsense? I mean,
because they bought the nonsense. Because they bought the nonsense.
They bought the nonsense.
Right. So what we're basically saying is the retort to that is, if he's on your side, quote unquote, even if he is, that's all the more reason to be critiqued.
Yeah, that was the attitude I took with Globebusters. I'm like, this isn't an enviable task to go on and say, look, you're misappropriating these terms that are scientific and they're not valid. Furthermore, your faux pas on Netflix, to Bob personally, actually doesn't work the way you would hope it failed. It affirms their lack of Coriolis drift. You just have to understand the principle that they're claiming. But again, that's difficult, and obviously you want to encourage these people. Neil will often pipe up when we're critiquing Witsit in this example and say things like, we like Witsit, we want him to do well. It's like, well, yeah, what does that mean? It means we want Witsit to actually be on our side rather than a stain on our character when he peddles nonsense. So we want him to fall in line, not because we're just horrible people trying to cause division in the flat earth community, blah, 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 blah. No. If he's going to be seen on my side, he better not be a bullshitter. And lucky that he is, we're happy to sit him down and point that out to him so he can correct the error, which is what it is, of his ways. Now, people who we don't care about are other communities like ghost hunters. Don't forget us taking our time and pointing out the error in their ways, because it's not our community. It's no tarnish on us if some ghost hunter does some stupid nonsense. That's not our community. But internally, if there's somebody like Witsit out there peddling garbage, it looks bad. So the right thing to do is address it internally and say, as a fellow flat earther, I just want to point out that you're talking total nonsense. And here's why. That's the right thing to do. Now, for the idiots who have bought the nonsense, they're going to turn around and go, why are you causing division in the flat earth community? He's on our side. No, he isn't. At this point, we're attempting to bring him back into line. He's deviated off the beaten path and into scumbaggery and deceit. Oh, that's not on our side. It's not on your side either. Oh, what, but you've fallen victim, so you want everyone to unify and sing Kumbaya because you've fallen victim to the shite we're pointing out? Don't attack the messenger. If you fell victim to the grift, tough luck. Yeah, if it's second time around because you also fell victim to the ball grift, tough luck.
You know, I've wondered in this entire series that we're going to be doing about the true earthers. Wouldn't it make sense to do a dissection of his ether presentation? Like, that's the one thing we haven't done. His original ether presentation before all of this.
I would go with his most recent, I think, would be better. Then like, we're addressing him on exactly what his audience are hearing today. But I like the idea, Eli.
What the hell's a HID unit? I don't know what that means.
Human interface device. Human interface device.
Hey.
I think.
So if a headlight's missing a human interface device, where the other one has one, what the hell does that mean? Anyway, just going to look something up. I don't know what it means.
HID in automotive use is high intensity discharge.
My bad.
Ah, so does that mean it's not xenon? If it does not have a HID unit, that means it's not a xenon, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So they don't match. Yeah, the TOS is telling me they do match, and the garage has just told us no, they don't match. One does not have a HID unit. Okay, I'm getting somewhere. I'm getting to the bottom of it. Shout out to Adam Lennox for sending me money via PayPal. Thank you so much for the support. Sorry, I've completely thrown you off.
Oh, by the way, whenever I'm in a venue where people ask, "Hey, I want to do some more in the flat Earth, but I suck at debating," I say, "Hey, join the venues that you like in Super Chat. If you got money to spend, do it."
I just heard you saying encouraging super chats. Yes, smash the super chat. Hello, Adam, by the way. Are you there?
Yeah, afternoon, guys.
Can I relate the story that literally brought a tear to my eye that you told me about the dysfunctional young lads that hang around your place of business?
Yeah, if you wish, yeah.
Adam told me a story about these guys that have been kicked out of school and are basically like what people would call naughty kids. And as a result of not being in school, they're just hanging around. So Adam paid them to go out and do a bit of litter picking. He's like, go and pick up the litter around here. I'll pay you $5 an hour or whatever he said he would pay him. I can't remember the number. It doesn't matter. And they did, and they went out. But as they're going out, picking up litter in the community, the people around them are going, oh, thank you so much. You're making the place look good work, lads. Right? And it's sort of, it's perked up these lads that had sort of basically no purpose and have got nothing to fill their time. And, you know, Adam's set them to task for a few quid and just given them a bit of an oomph. No, there's nothing in it for Adam whatsoever. I mean, well, there is. He gets a slightly less litter-ridden street around in his eyesight, right, Adam? But there's not, you know, you could do that yourself in about 5 minutes, I'm sure. But you know what I'm getting at? There's no real benefit to Adam other than literally looking out for the people in his community and wanting to help a couple of lads, or 3 lads specifically, to just have something to keep them occupied and make the place look a bit better and get a bit of respect out of the people who are thanking them in their local community. And as Adam told it in a much more meaningful way, that it genuinely brought a tear to my eye. It wasn't necessarily because I had huge amounts of toothache at the time, but it did actually, literally, and I'm not lying, bring a tear to my eye when he told me.
Yeah, they're good lads. I've got to buy 2 more litter picker grip sticks now. So the good thing was they saved some cats. They were picking the litter by the bus stop because they cleared in front of us, and they came running back. Adam, we found some kittens. And luckily, opposite is a PDSA who wanted nothing to do with it. But we've rescued the cats as well, so they're very proud of that. It's kind of like it was when we were kids on the estate. You know what I mean? You weren't ignored; you were part of it. And I used to go annoying the local shopkeepers. That's why I became a chemist, because I used to annoy the chemist and the paper shop. You know what I mean? As kids, you used to hang around there. It's just giving them a purpose and a bit of value, because they get ignored otherwise. And as I said with the doctors, I've got like the doctors involved as well. They're going to clean their yard and stuff. If you don't help them now when they're naughty young boys, they'll grow up to be naughty young men. And like one of them, what I'm trying to do as well is getting. What is he? He's 9, and he can't tell the time from a clock. So we're doing that as well, just little bits to just give them a bit of pride, in who they are, and they're not useless.
There's a reason I brought it up, and it's because of after you told me the story, I had a bit of introspection and started reflecting, not just on you specifically in terms of what you offer me, and by extension, the community that surrounds us, right? We're all privileged to the information, but there's an aspect of that people don't necessarily see, right? And that's going on quite heavily at the moment, to the time and effort detriment of many of my counterparts on this show. So from a public perspective, the public get to see the time investment that the panel members and Discord members and regulars basically put into what is effectively my show. Right? That's all support, it's all time. So obviously in this particular show, because I've got issues at the moment, there's a certain degree of emphasis on the financial, support that I receive from people, which is obviously greatly received and absolutely necessary. However, there's if you want to keep it in those terms, there's a almost price tag that you could put on the time that people give for free. Everyone that's doing this now, discussing it, the subject, whatever is at hand, is offering it to a wider audience that ultimately benefits me financially. So you can look at things that are public and go, all right, Adam, I'm sorry I'm using you in this example, Adam, but you had a nice story about kittens and boys that were a bit dysfunctional, so nice segue for me. You're already in the hot seat. Anyway, Adam invests, and you can see that as an audience member, a lot of time in my show, right? Now that's out of the goodness of his heart to do so. But also recently, there's a book being written, and it's time heavy in terms of the draft, redraft, rewrite, redraft. I think it's now 4th draft. Correct me if I'm wrong. Me dictating it originally, then that turning into a rough skeleton by Chuck, and then everybody reading it and going, it needs to be finished off. A complete rewrite with 10th Man, and me obviously. That's the 3rd draft. Then now we're going through the 4th draft, and we're nearly at the conclusion of that 4th draft. Once that's been done, there will be a crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's 5th going through of this book. Now, you can imagine, just in terms of time to describe it, it's an immense amount of time-heavy investment that people around me are giving me at 0 cost. There's no invoices being sent. There's no bills that are coming my way. I don't have to tell my taxman about how much I've paid Adam in this particular example. But Adam invests heavily in me, so that by extension, as I've said already, that information that I want to be the focus, and ultimately want to be the thing that generates me enough crust to be able to solve little stupid problems. You know what I mean? As opposed to me going, I've got this graphics card problem. I'll say something unrelated to my actual current issue. Please support me, and people go, hey, I hope this helps you pay for a new graphics card. Ideally, it'd be Adam's time investment in flat Earth debate resulted in the general channel being profitable enough for me to solve those issues, because I get super chats like I did earlier from, I'm going to actually tell them because they were so kind about what they said. And yeah, VR Christian, you know, saying how they're pleased with the information we actually do cover, rather than some bloody GoFundMe fundraiser or Give Send Go. You know, it's like, that isn't what the show's about, is it? This isn't a computer show. It's not a car show. Also, shout out to Crockett. It says, AI Overlord is ace. AI Overlord is my favourite. Well, I'm sure he's very pleased to hear that. Me, I'm slightly disappointed. I would at the very least hope he's your second favourite after me. But I think I'll get over it. Maybe.
He said that himself.
Thank you for the super chat, Crockett. But yeah, my point is, you'd hope that just, you know, your work being a YouTuber would, you know, just sustain you and be able to cover your stuff, so you don't have to constantly e-beg and make the focus about the thing that you're doing the GoFundMe campaign for, which is never about the topic. It's a tangent to the topic, no pun intended. You know, oh yeah, I've got to have a computer to keep the show running. Therefore, me talking about a computer and e-begging for one is kind of linked to flat. No, it isn't. I've got to pretend that it is, so that I can, you know, keep the interest in the show and try and do a ham-handed segue to how directly connected to flat Earth it must be for me to disseminate this information. Wouldn't it just be better if the information was there? It'd be far better if, you know, the revenue stream was never ever mentioned. You know, just the ad revenue kept me going. Heaven forbid. You know, that's never going to be the case because of the suppression. So, but it does become the focus, and it bugs me that should have to be the case. I am only more grateful to the people who actually respond to that and go, yeah, I do actually want to see that you can just carry on and forget about this, and chucking cash at that problem will solve it. And people do chuck cash at me. So I am still grateful. Sorry to make so many disclaimers about this. So thank you, Adam. You're starring my example because of how generous and wonderful the people around me are. And it does literally, in this case, sometimes bring a tear to my eye. You know, because the people around us are wonderful. We're a good community. I've got an overarching point I will get to you in a second, which is to say that when there's poison in that midst, and I see the kind of, let's not be too soppy about it, but the kind of love and devotion that people put into what we're doing here, a scar is left if you leave it unattended with crap that spews out of people like Witsit. Because that's been the main focus of this show so far, right? There's the detractors that say, why are you dividing up the flat Earth community? No. This is a cancer, right? And we're the freaking cure. Thank us.
There's another super chat in from Frank Taylor, 20 euros. I think Brian's logic is really ace. Thanks, Frank.
Are you making up super chats? That's basically fraud. Pretending there's been an hard-earned super chat.
Well, look what I found when I was perusing the Googles, looking at just elevation angle citations or whatever. And I just scrolled down to ballistics. Look at that. In ballistics, the elevation angle is the angle between the horizontal plane and the barrel's axial direction of a gun, mortar, or heavy artillery. So everybody can
I haven't got that one.
The whole sniper stuff.
Oh, can you send me that, please? I'll add it to the list. I've got 20, so that'll make 21. Let's read that again. That's a new one.
Right?
Yeah,
in ballistic, the elevation angle is the angle between the horizontal plane and the barrel's axial direction of a gun, mortar, or heavy artillery.
That's wicked. Send me that, please. That's brilliant. I'll add it to the list.
Just have made the book, Eli.
Yeah, I think you're right. That'll make the book. That'll probably make the book. That's brilliant.
Because everybody's always talking about artillery, and it's like, damn it. Well, the conversation done. We have it locked here too. Look what it says.
Well, it feels like a bit of a waste. If you were 10th man, that could have been an hours long presentation.
I do have a small like GitHub or Codeberg page where I list many PDFs by government and NASA and such, where they describe a flat Earth. If you're interested,
Oh,
it's not complete,
definitely.
but
Yes, please. Can someone get this to us on Master B? Is there any mods in in Discord that can do that?
Yeah, I'm over there.
Oh, yes, please. Yes, please. User. Thank you. Yeah, I'll take that for $1.
I'll give it for free.
It was a
I'll just
Robocop
find
reference, and I got it wrong. I'd buy that for $1.
Cool. I'll send it in main text for now, and I can
Thank you.
send it elsewhere.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's one of the things we've been doing in the book. So originally the citations were weak. They weren't weak. They just weren't, they don't jump off the page unless they're from a really top quality Ivy League university. So the citations are all polished up, and that just takes forever. And taking the body of the bit that you want and putting it in the book in reference to the text that you're actually talking about, and then changing the glossary, and so many man hours, isn't it, Adam?
Yeah, and a lot harder to organise than you think. This is why it's been done in stages, isn't it? But yeah, but that's because we want it to be right. Yeah, we don't want, quotes from just us making stuff up. Everything needs to, just like QE does. Everything we're going to say is going to be backed up and referenced. Do you know what I mean? It's not us claiming it; it's us supporting it.
Yeah, and it's having things that in the body of the text when we're describing something contextually to undo it at its core. For instance, yesterday we were covering how we see too far, and it makes me grit my teeth to do so, because that's not how it should be argued. So then you end up putting a section of it in quotes, too far, and then you've got a glossary entry that goes along with it because it can't attach to the text, because it doesn't make contextual sense to be, unpacking we shouldn't be having this argument that I'm currently explaining how to unpack. You know what I mean? So it's complicated, but I think it's worth the effort. In fact, I know it's worth the effort. I know the end result will be a book that people will want to pass on to other people, as opposed to a book that they go, yeah, I would have given this to my brother-in-law for his Christmas present, but when it got to the bit on gravity, you didn't take it apart based on how they argue it. You kept on going on only about how we shouldn't be arguing about it and why. Whereas I need arguments I need rebuttals to be able to deal with my brother-in-law when he says gravity's just real and you're an idiot for not believing in it. I want it undone. And it's like that chapter went from being a 2 or 3 paragraph chapter with me saying this isn't necessary to Adam and Brian and QE and many others going, we've got to deal with it, like nuts and bolts, all of it. So it ended up being like literally the longest chapter, didn't it? It ended up being enormous. And the whole time we're all huffing and puffing and getting annoyed because we're dealing with stuff that is unnecessary. But it's part of the process, isn't it? It's part of the history. It is a current discussion topic as much as I don't want it to be, and it doesn't need to be. So it's got to be there. So that, it's extra work, but it means that it is, as the title will be on the book, the ultimate flat earth reference.
Hi, my name is Joe. I'm new to the Discord, but I've been a long-term listener, and I think Brian's logic is the best on the panel.
Welcome, Joe. Welcome.
Joe.
Joe.
It's good to have you, Joe. You from where are you from? Scotland?
Dublin.
I never heard of it.
Not a Dublin accent.
Anyway, it's good to have you here. As long as you're not Irish. Only one at a
Thanks,
time.
Joe. Thanks, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
No, Brian is ace. And Brian's been working very, very hard alongside QE and Adam to turn my book into being a book about flat Earth into being the ultimate flat Earth reference. So there's a huge amount of credit that should be going to them, and I've made absolutely sure.
No, I can't take. No, I have to stop there. Sorry, I can't take credit. It's Adam and QE. I pop in now and again. I add a little bit. That's it.
I'm not having that, Brian. Last night, after being called a lazy Irish shirker, you actually committed to reading something yourself to us. Something you've really done there, but you knuckled down last night. And actually, what you did was brilliant. We've got more to go. I've got more maths to do on that, by the way. We've missed a step. But when we do it next, I'll show you. Got to put that step 6 back in, I think.
And for me, it's been a very hard task to prevent the curators from getting any mention by name whatsoever. It's a hard job keeping their names out of the book.
You're so important to him, Adam. He spoke directly over you.
I don't want it to turn into their book, is the thing. So there's from the offset. There's been a justifiable reason to not specifically mention anybody by name, but also have a foreword that actually Adam wrote that gives credit to everybody that deserves credit, right? Because otherwise, if you mention one person or two people in specific examples, and then someone reads it and goes, "You're telling me that Anthony Riley gets a mention because of the housekeeping origins, but I don't." You're like, yeah. And it's just going to piss a load of people off. So instead, the way we've gone about it, Adam, can you read that foreword? There's no harm in reading a bit of the book. And that bit is literally 100% finished, as it will be read in the book. Is there any chance you can read it for me? Can you dig it out at a pinch?
Yeah, I can get it. I just have to open Word.
And I mentioned Anthony Riley because he was the most recent one. So yesterday's chapter was housekeeping as a like catch-all explaining what housekeeping is, as opposed to, it does list the housekeeping questions, but it's explaining what it is and how it's come to be. And there's a discussion point where we're like, well, do we mention Anthony? As is always the case when anything needs specific credit, but they're not going to be getting it. It's my freaking book. How dare you? Anyway, so we're working out how we can work Anthony's name out of the text. It's difficult because there's a certain amount of credit that must be ascribed where credit is due. But it's not relevant to what the book is actually about, and it's my book, so he can get lost. His name's not getting a mention. But I've managed to weasel my way around that with Adam's beautiful foreword. So, Adam, hopefully I've bought enough time, at the detriment of my own good nature, in humorous terms. You know, in all sincerity, Anthony does deserve a lot of credit for housekeeping. It was his bleeding idea, after all.
Yeah, do you want it screen shared or just me to read?
Just read it.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. As a Flat Earth debate panel member, I've said that salutation many, many a time. Some say good morning, others good evening. A recognition that there has always been a variety of contributors from across the plate. So what is a FED panelist? Simply put, and as Nathan always begins the show with, anyone who clicks the link in the video below. However, some people linger and in doing so ultimately contribute. It may have taken the passage of time to recognise the benefit of some. Is there a demographic, you may ask? Well, yes, but it's not just flat earthers, also truth seekers, the curious, Mickey takers, and of course, ball earthers. And as time went on, a new category emerged called the anti-flat earther. Who are they, I hear you say? I assure you they will be discussed in great detail. I would like to thank all those flat and ball and anti-flat earthers. Their contribution in the debates has helped to sharpen our swords so we can proudly say today, the earth is observed, measured, surveyed, built upon, aviated, mapped, and navigated flat. And as Nathan has said, if everyone does a little, I won't have to do anything. A motivational speech, you will agree. Not exactly true, but it is the combined contribution of the flat panel members that with a pinch of tolerance, research, diligence, passion, hard work, friendship, and a little abductive reasoning have built a body of evidence that substantiates the above statement. Something we should all be proud of, all of us, whether mentioned specifically or not within these pages. And that brings me to the point of my contribution, to thank those flat panel members for their outstanding work. We know who we are. The awakening continues and arguments will always need refining and disseminating. So I'd ask you to all keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate, subscribe, share, and if you wish or have something to contribute, please join and then ask for 4 more hours. Long live the Flat Earth debate. God bless Adam Meakin.
Beautifully put, and exactly the sentiment that I would hope Anthony Riley, specifically as he's become part of this example, would read and go, oh, I feel like I'm actually being thought of when I get no mention in the housekeeping chapter.
Gentlemen, can I add that brought a tear to my eye? It really did. That was from the heart.
It is. It's because, in all sincerity, I don't want people to get annoyed that they haven't got a specific mention, because I don't want the book to be padded out with, disclaimers about how something came to be. It's not really on the subject matter. If you came to it completely green and you don't care why an individual sat me down and suggested that something should happen in a certain way, and eventually developed into the housekeeping that over time has developed into the following questions, that to me is fluff when I'm going to be peddling this book as a flat earth reference book. That is to say, anything you want to know about the subject of the nature of our reality being flat will be contained within this book. Yes, it's going to be framed around the debate, the people who have created all of the information and discuss it, but there is quite literally too many to thank, and it would be perceived by someone who says, hang on a second, I had a major part in that particular discussion point. Why aren't I getting mentioned where Anthony Riley is? Simply because he suggested you should have something that got developed by many people over many years. I should get a mention too. So to avoid that, nobody gets a mention, and everyone gets included in that foreword by Adam. So yeah, and I am grateful to Adam for writing that, so that I don't have to explain it.
Nobody knows who anyone is. So some person reading the book won't know who Adam is, won't know who Anthony is, etc. So it's like an inside joke. Like, if they want to know if they want to know who the people on this panel are and have been, they can come to the show, can't they? Afterwards, which they will.
The purpose
Well,
is
I'd
what
say,
questions.
sorry.
Batsy, then Adam.
Yeah, she's number 2. So Adam, you have to go afterwards.
Well, I was going to say, it's your book, and the way you want to write it, you should just write it. If you feel compelled to do something like that, then that's right. You do you, man.
And that's exactly how I tell them as they offer their time for free. This is my book. Keep writing for free.
It were that you were saying that at the start. Think of stuff for yourselves, guys. I want to get it in. But as you're writing it, it's not relevant. Not only do like any newbie not know who the people are anyway, it'd only be for this little circle over here. It's kind of not relevant. It's not relevant who came up with the housekeeping. It's why they were come up with and what their purpose is. So you spend the time explaining that, and you don't even feel the need to name drop, because if you read it, you know who you are, and in all the bits you'll see it. And as you said, the trouble is we could have a memory and someone will go, no, I said that 2 weeks earlier, actually, that was mine. So it's the same issue.
I think there's a really big issue.
Just 1 sec,
with
Batsy.
people.
Hold on 1 sec. One Deck and Movis. Who wants to go first? Morvis. Morvis. Morris, can you go on mute, please? One Deck, did you want to add something? Morvis, can you go on mute, please?
Oh, sorry.
No worries. You want to add something, One Deck?
No, okay, Nathan, sorry, I can't talk, sorry.
You were off mute causing a bit of audio chaos there, One Deck. No worries. Shout out to... can I get a paid mention? Science 26. You're a very loyal patron, Iron26. Iron26. And he ended up being somewhere that he wasn't necessarily expected to be, and by a different name. So I got very frustrated and irate with him and was chastising him, and he was assuring me that he was a very avid supporter. And I'm like, no, you're not, prove it. And then he did. No, I am definitely a very, very long-standing supporter of yours, as he looked down at his nails and rolled his eyes at me chastising him for pretending to be a supporter. How dare you try and pretend that you support me? I know all of my supporters. I shout them out daily, pretending to be supporting me. Oh, you are? Oh, right, yeah. Oh, yeah, thanks. Thanks for all your support. Shout out to you. Thanks for the super chat on 26. No, you can't get a paid mention. No one can. But if you're into that sort of thing, Jaren will put your name on his video going down to Antarctica. I mean, that'll only cost you $100. You can be on the credits.
Oh, that guy must be trying to get some kind of scam together to leave the arena. I don't know what he's going to do after that.
Yeah, I don't care. It's one of them. We could measure our success or failure based on next man, in this case, Jaren. But Jaren's his own guy. He's got his own problems, I'm sure. And it's the same as we were talking about with Witsit earlier, right? This seems really bad to say, but we're doing it out of love for Jaren. We want him to be a good ambassador. We've said it about Dave Weiss.
No.
I know, Brian, I was coming. That's why I'm tongue-in-cheek smiling while I'm saying this. But there's like we did discuss it earlier. If there's a cancer in your community, you've either got to cut it out or it'll kill you off. Well, in the case of Witsit, we're, cutting it out repeatedly because the question is, why does he keep coming back then? And AI's answer is perfect. So you can expose the lies, so you can expose the grift. That's what that needs to happen. So when I say never return, and then a day later he's in, it's like, yeah, don't forget about the intro. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. That's how it works. Me telling him I don't want him in my community because he's punting lies, because it's cancer. See the wood for the trees. If he comes back the next day and goes, yeah, you're right, he was all shite. He doesn't even have to say that. He just has to stop lying about it. And then all is forgiven, almost. We're pretty fickle. Or I am. I'm pretty fickle. You know what I mean? So Jaren, no different. If Jaren tomorrow is saying, yeah, we measure Earth flat, elevation angles, prove it. Everything that we do is based on a flat Earth measurement, and assuming antipodal positioning in Antarctica would also require flat Earth measurements to produce that ball for me to assume I'm standing in it, on it, and being antipodal. If he came to us and understood the fallacies that are being employed by the Antarctic trip, do you think we'd carry on chastising him? Brian said it earlier, we're not doing this we're not using it as weapons against these people. I'll cut Jaren down, I don't care. I've got no incentive to harm Jaren, metaphorically speaking. This critique is not a sword to attack Jaren or Witsit or Dave Weiss. We just don't want cancer.
Of course not. I say this all the time. You think we'd be going after these people for no reason? It's ridiculous.
We're not even going out. I'm going after the argument. I really couldn't care. Yeah. But I don't want them undoing the good work we've done. That's the purpose of this. Yeah. So they're not polluting people's mind with their nonsense. Yeah. And not out there pimping as flat earthers. That's what's frustrating for all this time. Who they are, don't care about. Yeah. And as Nathan's alluded to there, they change their tune, they're welcome back, and we'll move forward. There isn't a personal vendetta. Yeah. It's a positional a disagreement we have. After that's resolved, I've got no beef with them. I don't know them. Don't want to know them. I don't care.
Yeah, they might be lovely people after you get to know them down the pub. They might not. we're only going after the arguments. When I say it's cancer in terms of flat Earth and the information therein. Not whether or not they're good people to be around. Who cares? They might be, they might not be. Doesn't matter.
Want to bring an example of
Hold on, Brian. Go ahead, user.
Yeah, I wanted to bring an example of like a civil disagreement and correcting people who are incorrect, who are on your side. Me and AI Ardent, we corrected what's his name? Flatzoid. He was incorrect in an argument, but we tried to correct him, not because we want to diss on him, just because we want him to know the truth there. So yeah, he said it was circular reasoning that like Socrates' argument that all men are mortal. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal, and he said that this was circular reasoning. I think he might even still stand by this, but yeah,
It's modus, that's a modus ponens. That's a logical consistency. It's not fallacious. If P then
not
Q,
fallacious.
P therefore Q.
Yeah, it's also part of categorical logic.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, but yeah, I think he might still need some assistance on that, because I don't think he still has realized that. I think I've been talking about him, not about him to him, for like 2 days, and I've waited too.
I mean,
but yeah,
he's typically been very receptive. We've put Flatzoid under the critical microscope, forensic microscope, whatever you want to call it, several times, and each and every time he's been incredibly receptive. Actually, I mean, I may have my gripes with Flatzoid for various personal issues, but in terms of him being receptive to the argument, he's always been very receptive.
Yeah, I mean,
I was there when he brought this up, dude. I mean, your argument with him, you can take up with him, but to air this in public like this, dude, you should go to Flatzoid. I'm on his panel.
No,
dude,
it's true. No, he wasn't trying to air anything. He was trying to draw a comparison to say, look, when I've approached Flatzoid, it's not because I want to show Flatzoid up as being stupid or in any way attack him. I just want him to have the right argument.
Yeah, and I also would like to maybe get some more respected names to it, because I'm not respected. Maybe he doesn't like see.
I'm glad you said it. I didn't want to say that. Yeah, yes, maybe. Here, when we're critiquing him, it might be like, oh well, you know, if those guys are saying it, you should pay attention to it. If some random Joe with a username user, you might go, oh well, sod you, what do you know? Just dismiss you out of hand.
Yeah. Like yeah. So I Ardent also, I think he mentioned it to him, but yeah, still stood by it though. But yeah.
Yeah, as I say, I can only praise Flatzoid in that regard, because I can remember specifically saying, oh, I'm really, in the live streams that we've done, and we've covered a video that he's maybe had a debate with someone or hosted a debate between two people, and Flatzoid's piped up, and we've said, sorry to do it to you, Flatzoid, but this is wrong because, and he's never responded like Brian or Adam did. Never.
He hasn't been rude or anything. He's very polite. I can't say anything bad on that. I just say he's still on his position that it is circular reasoning. So yeah, I just would like either you or Quantum Eraser or someone else could just go through it with him or something. I think he's very brilliant and usually, you know, on his live streams and such. I just think he might have an issue here, I guess. Yeah.
I haven't watched him for the longest time, I've got to be honest. I'm just going to do a couple of quick shout-outs. So, yeah, indeed you do. Shout-out to Chow Yun Cat. Thank you very much indeed for the support. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. John 3:16. Thank you for the super chat. Also, shout out to
I know.
Giant Cat again. I don't know what the emoji is, but thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Yeah, we've got the best of intentions, and sometimes it may come across that we've got personal vendettas against people because we're so passionate about defending the subject. And can that come across in the wrong way if you're biased? Yeah, it can. If you're aligned with the person we're berating for their insincerity or their deceit, you're going to hear what you want to hear. You're just going to hear the vitriol, the outrage, and rather than it being outrage, it's just rage. You're just raging at my guru. You're not nice people. Why are you causing this division? But for those people, you know, the forensic analysis of what's going on currently in Flat Earth, the grift of ether, if you can't fog a mirror, then you're not going to get it when it's been gone through word by word by someone like QE. Sometimes there's going to be others in the friendly side of the discussion that are caught in the crossfire. That's just the way it goes sometimes. Not that Flatsoid's caught in the Witsit crossfire. This was completely unrelated to ether.
Yeah.
That's just how much I said a few minutes ago, Nathan, before the other man came in there talking about the thing with flat side. I would like Witsit to stop the nonsense he's doing, because he can be a force to be reckoned with if he did things the right way, right? Now, he appears to be a force to be reckoned with at present by those who support him and those who have him on their shows and different things. But we can see where the problems lie in the future, right? He does not want to see this. If he would just see this, if he's genuine and honest, he should, at least in time, see where he's going to be going wrong here, right? So, to not make this too long, Witsit would be good to have on our side. Jaron Campanella, you can never, ever trust him, ever. And I don't know about David Weiss. Why would you want to have someone around you who cannot be trusted? I don't care what their story is. I don't get that.
I don't know. Is it his age? Is it just being tempestuous? I don't know. How old is he?
Oh.
Witsit.
He's probably early 30s or something like that. Early 30s, I reckon.
He's my age.
What's your age?
I'm 30. I'm 32.
Witsit is 32. He was
Yeah, I'm 32. He's 32.
Sasha asked him.
He's not that young.
The point I'm making with Witsit is Witsit could row in with us, right? Witsit could, in a way, play both sides. He could hang in with Jaron and them and hang in with us, but not if he's promoting the nonsense he's promoting. If he stopped promoting that and did things a little bit different, you know what I mean? Over time, he'd be a much greater force to be reckoned with. But at present, we can all see it going wrong. We can all see some mainstream person, some PhD somewhere, or some person with a degree, pulling apart things he's saying because he has it wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
On a big platform, as he intends on going on. You know
Let
what I
me
mean?
ask you a question. Who here besides Nathan? Nathan earns a living from this, okay? Who else here makes money doing this? Or are we doing this just from coming to an understanding of reality?
Checks in the post,
And we
Neil.
enjoy the subject.
There's the administrators on it. Checks in the post, promise.
Let me think. Did I ever make even €1 out of Flat Earth?
But this is what I'm saying. They're after the money.
Hang on. I got given a second-hand computer by Tinfoil Hatman and monitor. I got given that this year. So I got that from someone else in the community. If you want to put a financial a figure on that, maybe. Other than that, though, There's nothing.
Right.
No,
and that's
I
my
did get
point.
free
They're
advice,
after
free
the
legal,
almighty,
some
they're
free
after the
advice off
almighty
Adam.
dollar, Brian. They're after the money. I don't give a crap what anybody says. That's all they're in it for.
Well, to a certain extent, so am I. I mean, I've sustained myself with the YouTube channel for the last 5 years. It has been my only and primary source of income. I'd be running this channel, putting out information about Flat Earth, has kept the lights on and kept the mortgage paid, kept food on the table. So
That's different.
why? Just because I'm not grifting with a lie. Witsit drew that comparison, right? When I was like, you're a grifter, and then he was like, well, how is that grifting? And I explained that you're making money from it. That's what you're doing, and you're making money from it. And his response to me was, so do you. You're like, yeah, I do. He thought that was a defense. It's like, there's a distinct difference when you're not punting something that is overtly untrue, and even your own rhetoric now goes against that which you've peddled to me personally. So that's when it can be called a grift, when you can't be unaware of it and you're laughing about, oh, I can't believe I've got to use this contradiction to make my point. You're like, you know there's a contradiction then, but you're carrying on making your living and raking in the money, and the aftermath is you telling us how you're just going to go on bigger streams and better streams in the face of being wrong and having to contradict yourself. Well, that's a grift. But the process and means looks identical in terms of what I do and what he does, right? We're both making money in the same way. The only difference is we're pointing out how he's lying as he does it, and he knows he is because he's having to laugh about the fact that he's contradicting himself to, quote, elucidate his point. Go on, Kim.
Yes, Flatty.
You'd have to raise your hand.
I would like to
barge in.
Oh, I like doing that. I would like to say that I have made a little bit of benefit off of Flat Earth. Shout out to Paraplegic Coffee. He sends me coffee, so I don't have to pay for it. I do want to pay for it. I'm unemployed, but he endorsed me as a Flat Earther, and that's what he says. He sends me coffee, and it's the best coffee I've ever drank.
Right. Well, I'm self-unemployed.
Yeah, but you're not putting out videos trying to get people to subscribe to you and tell them about this fantasy ether, because he knows that they want something in place of the ball.
Yeah,
Nice.
I don't put out videos. I do put out music, but not recently. More so, I've invested a lot of time in learning and being able to articulate and argue points for our side or our position. And I've even gone out of my way to learn the ether position and refute it as well, even though I don't need to go much further than English language a lot of the times.
Yeah, it's one of those. You've got to
Like
learn this crap.
replacement.
Well, you've got to learn the crap to undo the crap. I see it as no more or less egregious than having to learn about what causes the horizon to be a point that we would accurately describe as an optical resolution, a point of optical dissolution. That's what we would call it. Why? Does it serve us any purpose? Do we need to know this? Does it have a practical application in my daily life? Does it have any need to have been learned now that I know that that is what it actually is, as opposed to Earth curve? No, I didn't need to know all that, did I? Like you didn't need to learn about ether, but for the fact that you want to undo the cancer that it is, the lies and nonsense that it represents, well, you have to learn about stupid nonsense that they call Earth curve and how the geometric representation is. And in the process, you end up learning about what a horizon is and what we form with our vision when we look into the distance. Well, I didn't need to. It's annoying. It's filling up space in my head. What do I need it for? Can anybody, just think of it this way, right? I'll put it as a question. Name one useful, practical application now that you know how the horizon is actually formed. And forget about the affirming or taking apart globe zealotry. Give me a useful, applied reason to know that. Anybody here?
Say again. A useful applied application for the
Knowing that
optical
the
dissolution.
horizon is described accurately as the optical dissolution point, as opposed to Earth curve, which isn't our positive claim. So when you know how Earth curve isn't, Earth curve, black swan, give me a practical use for knowing everything we now know about perspective and the horizon.
You're going to hate me.
Well, I have to.
How about
Yeah, I'm going to hate me too. Go on, Adam. I'll go after you.
Leveling a sextant, I don't need to know about the optical dissolution point. I don't need to know about the Rayleigh criterion. I don't need to know about convergent points or flat planes. I don't need to know about any of that to know about how that's practically applied to a flat plane when measuring an elevation angle. That's not the same thing.
How did you validate that the horizon is the optical dissolution point? Have you been there?
You cheeky sod, I've been to the optical dissolution point. That moves.
Yeah, that's the point, isn't it? How do you know? Well, how do you know what? Like, all you know is not our fault.
Why would I need to answer this question? Is my point, Segway Boy. Why would I need to be answering this question? Is there going to be a pot of gold if I answer this? Will I be able to put this to use in work, Brian, if I answer you?
Well, unless you work at sea where you're using something like a sextant or something.
It's a different subject. I've just done this with Adam. Getting annoyed really quickly.
I said you have no need to know about it unless that is.
That's all I was fishing for. We have no requirement to know this. I'm leading on for Flatsy. She's saying she's had to learn about ether. Why? So she can know how we haven't got ether. And then afterwards it just fills up space in your head for no reason, doesn't it, Flatsy?
Yes, and it's honestly, I'm like losing sleep too because I'm trying to really make sure that I'm not like straw manning their position and really understanding it and going through it like a fine tooth comb. And yeah, I've been losing sleep lately, guys. I haven't been to sleep last night, so here we go.
You're not going to win on this one, right? Being poor, you might just win over. I haven't slept for bloody weeks. Anyway.
Whatever you do, don't leave the ether. Stop you from going to sleep. That puts me as it's the one thing ether is good for.
I was going to throw that to Adam. Mine's because of toothache. Nothing to do with ether. These subjects don't affect me in that way. I was going to ask Adam, the emissary to the Ethereans, if indeed he had ever lost an hour of sleep over this garbage.
No.
Fair enough.
We've got another practical use for the horizon.
As a point that we could describe with perspective terms.
Yeah, well, it'd be practically useful for me to know that when I look at it, it's not the top of a hill.
No. I'm not going to describe usefulness for knowing what something isn't. No, fail, total fail. You're not going to get one over on me there, right? When I say this was surplus to requirements, and then simultaneously telling anybody that wants to debate next man about whether or not it's a globe, yeah, you better damn well learn what perspective is. So you're not cornered because you simply don't know. But when you get to the point that you understand the black swan and how Earth curve is not represented by what we call the horizon, and your understanding of perspective and how it does form the horizon will be utterly useless at that point. It's totally surplus to requirements. Yeah? But only if you want to move on with your day. You don't even need to look into it at all. You know it's not Earth curve, black swan. Get on with your day.
Good one, Adam. Don't listen to him.
Can I say the horizon's a good place to find your GP location with? If you're using a sextant or
like? Yeah, totally agree. But that isn't why we ended up arguing about perspectives and zooming in on boats, was it?
But the horizon is like a land star, right? That sounds stupid, right? You can never get there. But it's always somewhere you're not, right? No matter how fast you go in a boat, you won't make it to the horizon, right? If two boats are going towards each other really fast, they'll both have an horizon, right? Until they see each other, then they won't have the horizon. The horizon will be behind each boat. So they'll never make it to the horizon. Just like you can't get to the stars.
I've got another one.
No, you already are at the horizon. That's the problem.
Yeah, but the horizon itself, optically, you never get. How can you? There's an optical point. You can never get there. You can never geometrically.
You're already there. You're already there. You're already there. Let me explain. Because it's in your eye.
No, you're always there.
It only exists in your eye, is what he's saying. So you're already there, is his argument.
Yeah, he's right. Go on, Adam.
So, and a newlywed couple, right, who are in the military, he's off to war, right? She wants to say goodbye for as long as possible, and she's going to film it, right? And she thinks, well, it's only going to be 3 minutes because of the speed of the ship before it disappears over that horizon, that physical obstruction. But with the clarity and knowledge that it's not a physical obstruction, it's just an optical dissolution point, she can equip her camera with a zoom lens and see her husband for just that little bit longer. A real world practical example of that knowledge.
No. It could have been successful if you hadn't said, knowing that you won't have an earth curve obstruction. No, sorry.
No, that was good, Adam. Can I go back to my point?
It was not good. It did not give me a practical use for learning about Rayleigh criteria.
Adam, that was great, Adam.
You can say goodbye to your spouse for longer.
Right. What Adam has failed. Okay, let's just cut to the chase. Let's stop this.
She does it after 8 minutes or something.
Right. There is a practical use for anybody that uses optics. Understanding the Rayleigh criteria, understanding points of dissolution through resolution loss. If you are using a camera for the purposes of earning money, this has a practical application. Understanding perspective, absolutely, there's a use for it. Now, Adam's brain has taken him to, but if the cameraman knows how to calculate this, because he's got a good handle like we've had to establish with the Rayleigh criterion, he could figure it out on the spot and tell the bride how long he can film that shot for. Yeah, you're just talking about optics. So in other words, if you're going to deal with optics, knowing optics is useful. Yeah. My point, however, just to bring it back onto the actual point I was making originally, our opponents use the horizon in this way to claim it's a hill. We do not use the horizon in that way. So knowing how the horizon is actually not forming a hill, but in reality a point of dissolution based on optics, will only ever give you just to get Adam's disclaimer in there, which he's technically won with, only ever useful if you're going to be applying optics to stuff. Now, me, generally speaking, I don't need that skill. And knowing that I'm on a flat plane, I still don't need that skill. Now, you're saying, but we do use the horizon for what? Establishing a horizontal plane of reference. Yeah, that's got sod all to do with the Rayleigh criterion, I'm afraid. In contrapositive claim to a hill being the horizon, which is where I'm trying to drive at. We don't need to know about optics. Maybe you're looking for a career in being an optician, then it will be useful, maybe, to learn how the horizon's formed and how the eye works and how lenses work and how diffraction works and how the Rayleigh criterion works. Maybe it'll be useful for that very small, specific group of people, but not us as flat earthers.
But you're back to that same problem. When I said earlier on, when AI came in and said, you're already at the horizon because it's in your eye, right? That's fine, I accept that, right? Because it's purely optical. But how do you know that the stars are not purely optical as well? At that, if you're going by that, how do you know?
They are. The one thing I can definitively say is they are purely optical. Because until you give me any tangible proof of that statement will still hold true even if you did give me tangible proof. You say, I've gone and touched them. Okay, they're still optically there. I can look at them.
You see, well, I did something a while back. I made a video addressing, Protocad, the sailor on the boat side. And I asked him, I said, because he made a claim in a video on a comment in a different video I'd made. And I said, okay, as you're reifying the horizon and talking about a distance to it, how do you measure a distance to the horizon without pre-assuming a globe Earth? Now, he was supposed to have made a video and come back to me, whatever. He never did, right? That I'm aware of anyway. He hasn't done it. Because you must pre-assume that it's a tangible geometric point on a sphere for you to be able to give it a distance. You must pre-assume the Earth is a sphere to do that. Otherwise, you can't give it a distance. Because it's I don't mean this in a disrespectful way to the horizon, right? Because it's obviously something that's beyond our understanding. but it's a nothing, if you understand what I mean. How do you measure a distance to something that changes, that can change just due to the weather,
Right.
its position?
Exactly.
To be closer or further from you.
Yeah. So in practical
So you
terms,
must-
in
Yeah, go on.
debate, it's very useful, Brian, because when you know that, you're offering the contrapositive assertion to their Earth curve assertion. You're showing how it can't be their Earth curve edge. It's another arrow in your quiver, or wherever they say, another string to your bow. Yeah. So, like I disclaim, if you're going to argue about this, then you do need to know this, because it's going to get discussed. Well, what is it then? Now, I'm not saying you take the bait of a burden of proof reversal fallacy, but if you're into convincing somebody that ultimately thinks you're a complete dumbass, you're going to need to know specific details about what their claim represents if it's not what they're saying it is and you're challenging it. So it's needed if you want a debate. But the debate's over, isn't it, Brian? For us, at this point, it's back to Flatsy, and I've had to learn about stupid ether. Why? Well, because I don't want to lose sleep thinking that they could be right. Well, fair enough. So you're learning about it, and when you get to the end of the process, you go, well, that was much ado about nothing, because I didn't need it. It was all nonsense all along, so I've spent a lot of time learning about Scientology for no good reason. Well, that was a waste of time. It's filled my head with nonsense, just to find out it's garbage. Well, that's what we're doing with ether. That's what we're doing with Earth curve by comparison. When you get to the end of the process, there is no debate. It never was Earth curve. The inference comes from measuring sea level. You've got to get the surface flat to derive that mathematics. So it's all absurd. But to be able to illustrate that to somebody who's got the claim it is a physical sphere edge, you need to know everything about perspective. You're not going to get through the arguments with your opponent if you don't.
Technically, well, for me, the argument ended within 8 seconds when it was pointed out to me something I already knew, that the horizon always appears to rise to eye level. Doesn't actually, but it appears to do so. It can't do that consistently like it does it, or in any way, if we lived on a sphere. It can only stretch further from you, but it must continually go down at the rate it would have to go down, right? As in a dip rate from your eye, right? From a straight line out from your eye, it must have a dip down that's conducive with a sphere. It can't appear to rise up. And there's even video. I even have a baller who videos.
Before you give me the example, before you give me the example,
these camera lenses.
Sorry to interrupt. Before you give me the example, yeah, you've got to have a dip. Can you see my pointer on screen? Maybe let's go on to this one so you can see it. Can you see where I'm pointing, Brian?
Yeah.
So when you describe the dip, what's this dip you mentioned? What's it derived from?
Yeah, it's derived from a horizontal plane. I understand that, Nathan. I mean, I literally have a whole video, did the maths myself. Everything.
Yeah, I'm not saying it for you.
That.
It's for the audience's benefit. I just wanted to point out, as we're specifically talking about it, and you're now talking about the dip that would have to be there, falling away from you, necessitated by a sphere Earth surface that doesn't do that. It's derived from a flat plane to give it you. It's on screen. We just happened to mention it. I just wanted to get it in there before your example. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, okay. Right. So I didn't know what you meant by that. No, the point I'm making is the horizon can't appear to rise up with you to the point where you're in it 6 miles up on an airplane, you're looking out the windows, and it appears to be almost at your appears to be at your eye line. There is a small amount of dip, right? But that's going to be, if you're at a different elevation from sea level, you're going to have a small dip. But other than that, there's no dip. It doesn't do what it would have to do on a sphere. If you chart it out on GeoGebra or whatever else, you would see it does not do what it would have to do if you're on a sphere. So that's what changed. Everything changed within that 8 seconds for me back in 2015. That was it. After that, I just needed to go through the arguments, go through all the nonsense, but I never once had a doubt. Do you know what I mean? There was no doubt.
Well, there's going to be people in the audience.
It's literally that simple.
There may be people in the audience that either don't appreciate that at all or are confused by your assertion when you say the horizon appears to rise to eye level. Well, it comes down to just a quick explanation for the audience's benefit. Well, what is the horizon and why would it not stay with your eye level? Well, what is the horizon? Well, it's formed with the ground. And as you raise up, the ground's below you. So the horizon's below you because it's formed with the ground. I know that might seem obvious to anybody on the panel. They're probably thinking, why is he saying this? Well, it's because sometimes the obvious isn't obvious to people who are under the misapprehension that the horizon rises to eye level. No, it does not.
It appears to.
It appears to. It's very hard to distinguish that it isn't, but it's formed with the ground, and you are rising above the ground, which is forming that point that you have represented in your eye as you look out into the distance, which we know as the horizon.
Yeah, but let's just. Right, the point I was making with that was not to go over my becoming a flat earther story again. The point I was making was that the horizon can't do that on a sphere. End of story. That effect cannot happen if we lived on the global radius 3959 miles. Now, if that wasn't good enough for people, let's move it forward a few years to the horizon, right, not being the leading geometric edge of a globe. Right, like the fact that to measure a distance to the horizon, they've got to pre-assume the Earth to be a sphere, which is a geometric three-dimensional shape. They've got to do that to give that distance to the horizon. Right? If they don't do that, they can't actually give any distance to the horizon. They can't do it, which means that. And because the horizon moves about, it does its own thing. You can stand in the same spot and it get closer to you or further from you within an hour. Something that was in front of it can be behind an hour later. It just does bizarre things. You have no mass on. I just need to use that word there. On what it is or how it's doing really what it does. Because even optics don't really explain it. Because is it at the limit of my vision when the weather changes and suddenly it's further? Is that the limit of my vision? Of course, optics are involved. There's no doubt about it. But can I claim it's the limit of my vision when the limit of my vision was before a rock, and now an hour later it's behind the rock? Did my vision improve within that hour, or was it just a change in the weather? I mean, it allows you to see as far as it allows you to see. It doesn't mean that's as far as you can see. If you understand what I mean. Do you get what I mean? If the horizon can be behind that rock in an hour's time, then the limit of your vision wasn't in front of the rock. If you can see it behind the rock in an hour's time.
Yeah, a physical obstruction is always going to be a...
Yeah.
Yeah. I do, yes.
Which is like this. So it's like the stars. That's what I meant. Like they're very much connected. Like when QE makes the kind of when he makes the connection between the horizon and the stars, although we'd have to kind of go through that to verify it, he has a point because it behaves the same. No matter how far you go right towards it, you'll never reach it because you're already there, right? It's ridiculous, right? But when you go up into the sky towards the celestial bodies, does the angle to them change? No. So they cannot. So those two phenomena are very similar in that way.
There's a lot that I could absolutely ascribe to perspective in terms of the stars, and how the system has been developed into a celestial sphere is absolutely a representation visually, an orthographic representation of the perspective view when tracked with angle measurements. It forms a curve. Well, if you take...
Yeah, I have no hassle with that.
Yeah, well, that's perspective.
Sorry.
You can't describe it any other way in terms of how you break down what's been formed when you describe what the celestial sphere is. But that tends to be our focus, which annoys me, because what does it actually start out as? Well, you've got the sky parallel with the ground. For it to be measured out and represented as a perspective-based curve, like a dome of vision, as some people refer to it, well, that's a representation on paper for simple angle measurements that do not reach or breach the horizon. They are always above a point on the ground. Above, that is to say, there's always a zenith for a navigation star and a point below it on the ground. So therefore, if you measure it at the horizon from a given location, it is merely above the ground over there. So what does that actually translate to? The measured surface of the plane and the sky in relation to it? Well, the sky must be and is measured parallel with the ground. Now, fortunately, very fortunately, we'd never found our way round, that doesn't change when you raise in altitude. It holds true. Like you're saying, it tallies with the horizon never being attainable. You can't reach it. We can't reach the stars. And but for the fact that they do not change, we'd have never utilised them in this manner for navigation. Thank God, figuratively and literally, for it being that way. Does it in any way need explanation about why that doesn't function ball-shaped? Or, indeed, in a few years' time, we'll be saying, does it really need us to be pointing out that the globe is created with these measurements? Why do we need to do that? We should be on the front foot and the back foot forward. You know, why even mention that the globes come from those measurements? That's also kind of surplus. Who cares if people know whether or not their belief in a globe came from those measurements? Sodom. You know, if they don't know, they don't know. They're ignorant. Kind of a roundabout way of me tallying off and asking people to stay tuned if they are watching on an after show, because we started this off with me suggesting that us wanting the cancer of ether to be cut out, or indeed softening the blow of the flat earth information by saying nothing really changes, there's no detriment to your well-being, it doesn't really make much difference, it always was flat. The globe itself comes from those measurements, so nothing really changes if you know Earth's measured flat to create the globe that you used to believe in as a religion, with blissful ignorance of the fact that it was flat to make that globe. But no, nothing really changes, so you don't need to feel like you're going to lose some heavy investment when you know the origins of your globe faith. And indeed, if you chose to, you can retain it. A faith, a belief in something that came from flat earth measurements. You can. It would seem silly too, but obviously that's your choice. But, you know, nothing really changes. The stakes are much lower than you thought, eh? Knowing that Earth is flat doesn't have as high stakes as you might have first thought. You don't need to lose sleep over this. Anybody get last remarks before I do ask people to stay tuned? Some of you have. You must be been very vocal up until this point.
No.
Just no. Oh, well, how wonderful. With that, I will say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat. Hit me up on PayPal. Thank you very much indeed for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.